All right, we're live. We can start the podcast whenever. If y'all are ready, we can get this thing going. All
Let's
right,
do it.
I'll start the recording and go ahead, Jack.
What is up, team? And welcome back to another episode of the Technical Foul Podcast. As always, you're joined by the three of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right, I'd imagine, is JP Pusilowski. And then on the bottom is Sanders. If I screwed that up on y'all's screen, I apologize. But we're happy to be here. We're getting close to the end of the holidays, meaning we'll all three be back together, back to a more regular recording period. We'll all three be back in the studio. Something I'm personally looking forward to. I think some of the listeners are looking forward to it as well. They enjoy the setup. They enjoy kind of the regularity. Is that does
Consistency,
that work?
but regularity is
Consistency
right. I
is
think
better.
consistency is a
Consistency
more
is better.
comfortable word.
Yeah, correct. And I'm looking forward to that as well. But how are we doing today, boys? Before we get into it.
Yeah, I'm ready to be back. Ready to get my Camario or my number one Camario / Kelly Jones jersey hung up on the wall. Can't wait for that. But ready to be home.
Yeah.
I had to kick my dad out of his office today. He's on a meeting, but he's like, I don't have to be on camera for my meeting, so I'm just gonna go sit in the dining room and you can have the office. So
Shut up,
ready to be back
pops.
at ready to be back in my office, and yeah, ready to be back in Starkville for basketball. A lot of basketball. Excited for women's basketball, men's basketball. That's about to really pick up. I'm just ready for students to be back because I've worked the women's game, a home game, and it was a decent crowd, but I really hope that students will show up for that. And then the men just beat Texas, and I really think that our fans are going to have short enough memories to think, oh, we don't care that we lost to whoever we lost to in non-conference. We beat Texas. Like, we're going to show up and we're going to pack out the student section. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and energy and then we've got another game. That's actually what, tomorrow, right? Men's game tomorrow. Probably won't be a lot of students for that because school doesn't start till next week. But maybe the
Yes.
game after that, we can really get fans, especially because it's the Ole Miss game. We can get
Oh, Ole
fans
Miss is
there.
tomorrow.
No. Ole Miss is next week.
Oh, okay. So that's
What-
brutal scheduling to draw the Ole Miss game before
We'll
students are
have
back.
we'll have Alabama.
Oh,
We'll have Alabama in town the night before school starts.
Yep.
wait. So who plays tomorrow?
But yeah,
Wait,
it's
when Ole Miss is Saturday.
play
Ole Miss is
Oklahoma
next
at home
Saturday.
At
tomorrow.
Oklahoma. Gotcha.
Yep. Ole Miss is Saturday the 17th. So it's coming up. School will be started by then, I think. So
Yes.
that should
Yep.
be a packed game.
Yep.
It always is.
That's the one game. I mean, the student turnout past couple years has been pretty good, but that's definitely the one game where I don't think it matters really how good the team is.
Yeah.
The students will show up, and ideally a lot of the alumni in town, people show up as well, and really pack it out, fill it out. How are we doing though, JP?
Right, that's
Oh,
really.
go ahead.
I'm doing well. I was just gonna say that's really just been the biggest thing for us over the past 2 or 3 years with Jans is it's never been student turnout. It's always been other fan turnout.
Yeah.
That's really been the problem. It has been kind of the opposite to what the problem is with. I guess it's still kind of a problem with football, but for football, like the problem was the students would leave after the first quarter because we were down 14-0 and wouldn't stay. And then when we did at times make comebacks in the second half, there was no way to have the crowd that we had at the beginning of the game because everybody was gone.
Yeah.
That's never really been a problem for basketball. The students have been there, they've been there the entire game. It's just been a lack of fan turnout for the other fans. And then also with the way Selman has the student section set up there, I'm curious to see how to look with, the removal of the pit. Of course, the bananas are gone. I wonder if anyone will carry on that legacy. But we have never. I think last year we looked pretty good on TV with the pit, but we look nothing compared to Auburn.
Yeah.
Or I watched the USC Michigan State game last night. Like we look nothing like that because the student section isn't on TV because
No.
we're
Yeah.
over there in the corner. But I'm excited. That was a huge huge win against Texas. Jan's talked about it, and a lot of coaches have talked about it over the past week, is that with conference play opening up, it feels like the season restarts and you feel a lot of rejuvenated juice because one of the things that is great about playing in the SEC or even the Big Ten or the ACC in college basketball is that you're given an opportunity 2-3 times a week to play against a tier two or a tier one team to get a quad one or a quad two win. And that Texas one will be no different. Like if we are to go on some kind of run, which of course we hope we do, that win over Texas to begin SEC play is potentially a barrier for entry for that team into the tournament and allows us to get the upper hand. So another big opportunity on Wednesday against Oklahoma. And then I'm really looking at the 3 games after that: Saturday in Rupp Arena, and then Bama and Old Piss next week with the students back in town in the hump. I can't wait. I recently, I guess my life update is I recently joined the message boards. So I'm on Gene's page.
For 24/7.
Yeah, that's 24/7's message board.
Yeah, I'm on maroon and white. That's the on 3. I never say anything though. I read a lot, but I imagine
Yeah,
you'll be talking a lot.
You are allowed to. We should get you to post what I'm saying, and just you can take it as your word if you want. Because I've gotten some good reactions so far. I've posted 2 that about football that we'll talk about when we get to that game. But for basketball, I got some good reaction. It's been I've looked at our message boards, multiple times throughout the years, and this year as well. But it is to actually be on there and then to get the responses that I've gotten. It's been really refreshing because it's just so much better than the Twitter fan base. There are still a lot of bad apples, but the great thing about the bad apples that give the stupid takes that make no sense is that there's a dislike feature on the message board, and they almost every time get more dislikes than they get likes. So that's been really refreshing. And that's kind of been my life update. If you want to look for me on Gene's page, technical_foul_JP. I'm on there.
JP getting active.
I'll be posting.
Good shout. Good shout.
Yeah, I got my full reaction to the Texas game. I watched that entire game. It's on there.
Thank you all for beating Texas, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you need more of a reaction than just Josh Hubbard is insane?
I think him, Jaden Epps, and then the game we got from Chore. He played the best game he's played all season, without question. The scary thing is, like, Epps and Hubbard combined for 65 points. The scary thing is, and it's not scary for us, but it's scary for the teams that we're going to play, is that Hubbard was 10 for 31 from the floor, under 30% shooting. So he could be more efficient. Like, he could have dropped 50, if he was shooting at the percentages that he's been shooting his entire career here at State. So we may look for some bigger scoring games from Josh Hubbard going forward. I thought Jaden Epps' scoring was really, really impactful. I think if you're looking for negatives to take from that game, is that our big men, we got a problem there, and that's been known all season. Like, JDF to be in the foul trouble he was in, Jamarian Davis-Fleming, the freshman, top 100 recruit, he can't get in that foul trouble going forward. And I think I credit it to freshman mistakes, because Quincy Ballard, what I wrote, not quote, his lack of really anything, makes him a liability to be on the court. He's just big and tall, but he's not quick. He can't defend. He couldn't defend Texas's center, who's just 6'9" and white. He was getting dusted by him the entire game. And then Brandon Walker is our third big, and he's not a big man. So
he's like 6'8" or something.
Yeah, we need JDF to be on the floor as much as possible. That being said, though, like, we our offensive rebounding was exceptional. We had 19 of them. And of course, Brandon Walker, who I just discredited, had the biggest one of the game. The offensive rebound to tie it and put it in overtime. I wrote, and I do feel this way. I feel like we're going to be one of those teams that in the past 3 years we've always in a lot of games we felt like we've had a talent edge over teams. Like I think of last year against Texas when they came to town, it almost feels like that script flipped, in that obviously Texas has a much more talented team than we do. They have much more reliable players to go to, but it's you sometimes you play a team and it's you just wonder how in the world you lost that game. Like we may never have the talent edge this year. Texas did not have the talent edge against us last year, but
Yeah.
we find a recipe for wins. Like last year it was Texas. It felt like every single key heartbreaking moment went their way, and then Trey Johnson took over in overtime. No different than what we did to them um, this past week, and that Hubbard took over, especially in overtime in the final minutes of the
And
fourth quarter. And it felt like all the key momentum plays just went our way.
yeah, and we also had our own the key momentum, the foul, the free throw tip where the Texas guys both just knock it in. And what's crazy is that's the second. I've never seen that before, and State has had two this season. It's ridiculous the luck as far as that goes that we've had. Because we had that I think in the not the SMU game because it was a road game, but we had that. It was a game we ended up losing. But just ridiculous luck in both of those games, and kind of wild that that would play out the way it did. So we've got our basketball update. We'll talk about that a lot more as season goes on, and even more once football season truly ends, and we have nothing else to talk about but the draft and basketball. But do we want to dive into what we are here to do today? Football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
After I
let's
read
do
a
it.
text real quick while we're talking about college basketball,
Oh boy.
got this text from my friend on Friday. For those interested, Maryland lost to a 7-6 Oregon team at home, 64-54. They shot 27% from the floor in that game, and are now 7-7. Shout out Buzz Williams. Shout out Maryland. Good hire by y'all. Thank you for taking him off our hands. And now we can get into what we're here for, which, as it says on the episode title, college football. Well, technically it says preview, not preview, but college football preview, and then NFL review. We'll review the last week of the NFL games, and then yeah, that's it. But more specifically, we'll kick it off with the Mississippi State bowl game recap, if we want to get into that first, and then move on from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go change it to college football preview. And then, do you say we're gonna start with the state game? Is that right?
Yeah, we'll start with the state game and then go from there for sure.
All right. It's up, so take it away.
Cool. Mississippi State and Wake Forest faced off in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Unfortunately, we did not get to see Jeff Levy doused in Mayo, or maybe that's fortunately, depending on who you ask and what their opinions are on Mayo. I hate Mayo, so I would personally not want that to happen. State couldn't get it done. I really think the biggest thing from the game, though, is at the end of the game, Kamario Taylor gets hurt, and obviously everyone just stops. Like, what happened in the game doesn't matter at that point. Like, anything before that, and everyone's just like, because it looked bad. But he's fine. He's fine, folks. We're ready to roll into next season still. He'll be healthy. But gosh, that injury, I'm stunned he's fine.
Yeah.
I dodged a bullet, truly. But what are y'all's thoughts on the game? What did y'all see from certain players? What y'all, analyze Kamario Taylor's performance as kind of one of the key guys that will be a big player next season. Other young guys, whatever y'all want to talk about it, give it to me.
I'll leave the QB analysis to JP when we get there. I'll just start with the team played exactly like they played all season. And I think that I and other fans, at least some fans that I talked to, got optimistic about it's an ACC team. We're favored. Maybe we can put together a good game and go win. And then we go out there, and the defense plays like it's played all year. Not great outside of Kelly Jones. The offensive line plays not great and forces Kamario. I think he had a lot of rush attempts, and over half of them were just QB scrambles. Is a lot of what a lot of it came down to. So that's kind of my first big takeaway is the team I kind of forgot because I hadn't seen us play in a month that like, oh, our offensive line is really bad and the defense is not great outside of Kelly Jones and Isaac Smith, and the other safety, Jerron Manning. But then they played like that. It's like, yes, this is not a great team. We went 5-7. We barely got a bowl game. And Wake Forest played really well defensively, which I was not expecting. Especially after that first play where Kamario hit Brennan Thompson. I thought we were about to see us drop, 40, 50 points on them. That ended up not happening. The Taylor injury was terrifying. If you think you saw me depressed after the Florida game, Jack, I, man, it was way worse after this game. I literally, go ahead.
People on Twitter were ranking their worst moments as a State fan and putting the Kamario Taylor injury number 1. Like after it happened, like the crash out, while valid, was unreal.
Yeah,
so
it
I
was.
understand.
Yeah, it was awful. It was worse than the Florida game. The game ended, and I was just kind of sitting there. I scrolled Twitter for probably 2 hours. Didn't really talk to my family. I was like, all right, I'm going to bed. I went to bed. Scrolled Twitter for another 45 minutes. My mom came in and was like, it's gonna be okay. And I was like, no, you don't understand. This was gonna be our future. Anyway, I was just like, I was distraught. I thought that the football program was over, but he's all right now. So we're all back to normal, business as usual. Get to recruiting. That is all part of a crash out. So that was not all realistic. There's a lot of overreacting, but it was very scary. I didn't go back and watch the replay. I was too nervous. I also, or I did go back and watch it once, but I didn't like zoom it in or slow it down or anything. And so all of y'all were talking and yapping about like, oh, on replay it looks like this, it looks like that. And I was just sitting there like, I can't watch that. Like, I don't need to be punched in the gut again. I don't know how he's okay. I didn't believe that he was okay for probably 72 hours. Because I saw the photo that night of him walking to the bus in no boot, and I was like, well, he tore his ACL. Like, clearly that's what happened, because you can walk in a torn ACL. I was like, if he's not in a boot or anything, then he's either all right or he tore his ACL. And so I prepared myself for the worst case scenario. Then his mom, posted that nothing was torn or broken, and I was like, I still don't believe it. I'll believe it when a doctor says it. But I think
Dr. Shin when you need him?
Yeah, exactly. I think now I feel pretty comfortable him being cited in a boot since then, that it was an ankle sprain. I'll believe it now that we're, almost a week removed or however long it's been. But it was a roller coaster. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't worth it, because I think that's too, like, there are State fans who are like, we shouldn't have played in the bowl game. What did you think was going to happen? Why was Kamaru still out there? We're down 14. I think that's all hindsight 2020 stuff. I'm grateful that we got the chance to play. I'm grateful that we got the chance to practice, and grateful that, we had the opportunity to go and try and, get in one possession with a minute and a half left and a timeout, a couple timeouts. Those are all opportunities that if you going into, you would take. Now, maybe if you knew your star quarterback was going to get hit like that, you wouldn't, but that's hindsight. Those are all opportunities that you want for your team to practice with a new defensive coordinator. And so the fans who are complaining about going to the bowl game or leaving Kamaru in there down 2 possessions, I think that's stupid. I think that's hindsight stuff. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't get not playing in the bowl game. If you want to make a case that maybe he shouldn't have been out there on the last drive, just considering the way the game had gone, how beat up he'd been.
Yeah, that is.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think that's a little more valid. But you're just never not going to play in the bowl game because you're worried about some guy getting hurt. Like, that's just insane.
And there is some context given that Kamari was banged up all night, limping earlier. He just was cramping all night. And so there is some context there that maybe you don't start him, but he's a freshman quarterback playing against a P4 defense in a, you create that as a 2-minute situation where you're trying to go down and get points in a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
It's good experience.
It's great experience. And so now that we have the hindsight, yes, maybe you say, you know what, you're banged up. Let's get Croman Hook in there, Croman Hawk. But I think it was the right decision to leave him in.
Yet, by the way?
Is what?
Very much an aside. Has Croman Hawk committed somewhere yet?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's my big takeaway is I don't hate any of the decisions by the coaching staff to leave him in there. It sucked, but it's behind us now. He's on the mend, and we're on to the portal. We're on to the real offseason. The offseason we thought was going to start 4 weeks ago. We're there now. So I'm ready for that. JP, your thoughts on the game, the actual game?
I mean, I I got a ton of thoughts about KT. Um, for starters, and I watch a ton of injuries. I watch Dr. Brian Suter on YouTube, and he breaks down injuries really well. And I'm not afraid to watch those kinds of injuries because, quite frankly, um, they're they're pretty mesmerizing. They're cool. Obviously, I'm not cool with the dude being hurt, but they are cool to see. The spectacle of it, the spectacle of the human body. The only ones I won't watch is I cannot watch um, when a UFC athlete fighter breaks another dude's arm. I can't watch those. Those gross me out. But anything other than that, I will watch, and I'm fascinated by. And having watched a ton of them, going back and seeing the replay, it's. I think it was pretty easy to say that there were a ton of things that were on the profile for a potential injury. First reaction was ligaments is what it would look like. Second reaction, it was just a high ankle sprain is completely on the profile for it. But I guess, you give it more thought. You go through all those emotions that every state fan went through. One of, potential not explanations, but potential hopes going forward is, okay, towards ACL, Alonzo Barnett, quarterback of JMU and who's now in the portal, tore his ACL in the final game of the season last year for JMU, came back, missed all spring camp, summer camp, and fall camp, but started the season, played electric all season, and led JMU to the playoff.
Yeah.
Camario could very well do that. He's just as talented, if not more talented than Alonzo. So it's completely possible. The other one is, and I don't know if I've told you all to this story, but I think it was my sophomore year, so 3 years ago. I was in line at MacArthur to get lunch, as one does as a state student. Having MacArthur lunch is a staple of your
100%.
Student career at state. And Dylan Johnson was right in front of me, and he had played in the Alabama game in Tuscaloosa, just a couple days prior, 2 or 3 days prior. He had suffered a really, really bad injury in that game. A stop the game one. It looked like an ACL kind of injury. It felt like his season was probably going to be over. And Dylan, an incredible player, was incredible for us. And of course, had his incredible run at Washington and all the way to the national championship. He's standing there in front of me and he's talking to some dude, another student, and he's explaining how, he doesn't understand it, but the doctors, our team doctors, essentially told him that he's got like baby knees, that he's just got knees that, haven't necessarily fully developed and grown, and so it's harder for him to have those kinds of injuries because they're so like new. And it's also much easier for him to heal from things. And he was saying, "Oh, I'm going to be playing this next Saturday." 7 days removed from being in what was essentially, it felt like it would have been a torn ACL. His ligaments were fine, and he's playing. It seems like, and I also compare this to some of the young guys in the NBA as well. Like I think of like Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder. There were things throughout that playoff run last year where he took hits, he took falls, going up for a dunk, going up for a layup that would have knocked any of us out for days. It would have knocked someone out for the entire postseason. And he gets up and 2 minutes later he goes and dunks on somebody. There's something to be said about some of these young athletes that they are just built different. They just have been given a different a toughness, resilience, and then a ability to heal from God that not everyone else has. And it seems like at least that Camario had that, and he got lucky to just walk out with an ankle injury. I think it was something I highlighted a few times in our chat throughout the game, and I talked about this leading into the bowl game, that we're going to have to prioritize a backup quarterback
Yeah,
this offseason. And that was not only because of what happened in the bowl game, but also because of, what seems to be a growing trend in the SEC is that you're going to, at some point, have to rely on your backup quarterback because quarterbacks are taking more hits because they're running so much more. It's Camario's DNA to run, and he is electric when he runs, and you can't take that part away from his game because then you take away a big part of why he's so great. And he was electric in the Egg Bowl. He had a fine day running the football against Wake Forest. I think I fully agree with Sanders and Jack in the hindsight 2020. I hate that shit, and I say shit because it's rightful for that scenario. It's stupid. The people that say those kinds of things don't know what they're talking about. They don't have any perspective. Kamaria was in the game for all the right reasons. He was in the game because he wanted to be. He competed his tail off the entire game. He showed his competitiveness, his toughness, his resilience. We're only saying it's a mistake because something bad happened, and that's the hindsight part of it. KT
sure.
wanted to win the game, and he was in the game when it was not out of reach. Just 2 minutes left, down 14. You got a timeout. Anything's possible. He had made big plays down the field, so you never know how quickly we could find lightning in a bottle and strike. It's so reactionary, and then also the anger that came from it that was torn apart on Levy because if he pulls KT, well, we just dealt with that the entire season, did we not? With Blake Shapen, was that not already a massive problem the entire season of wanting Kamario Taylor in the game? So you're gonna pull him with 2 minutes left, and now you're probably gonna make the argument that I just made, in that the game was not out of reach. So it's a lose-lose scenario apparently, and for those fans, it's so reactionary. Have some perspective. Levy said multiple times this year, even in games that we were down, that he wants to keep fighting, to go for the win. And there was no way he was going to take away, that chance from Camario in that spot, and there was no way he was going to stop competing. And then there was, again, like I said, it was refreshing to see what the message board people were saying compared to Twitter. But the Twitter people, it's still a large sum of people, and it's still a ton of likes that those kinds of tweets get. And you think about everything leading up to this game. For one, we're literally not supposed to be in the bowl game. We were 5-7. We only made it because other teams kept declining invites. And then you think about everything that happened in the past month prior to the game. The success on signing day, flipping guys like Braylon Womack, the extra practices for our young guys, Kamario Taylor and others, the firing of Coleman Hutzler and the hiring of Zach Arnett, who had great SEC defenses in the past, and the buzz surrounding next season. You have people changing their profile pics, Kamario changing to Levy with his sick Ironman glasses, and Levy's burner is changing his profile pic to a blinged out Levy, and we're sharing that across of Twitter for 2 weeks. And we're putting that in replies, and the guys that, like when Braylon chooses us over Auburn or A&M, we're going to A&M and throwing in blinged out Levy and their tweets in the replies. And now a bowl game that we're not supposed to be in is going to have us have a full 180. I hated that reaction from the Twitter
Sure.
fan base. Like the only negative thing, and this is how I felt prior to the game, and how I still feel now, was the only negative thing that could come from this game is Camario could get hurt. Sadly, we're cursed, and that pretty much happened. Thankfully, he's okay. But
He should have got hurt on that play. As like stupid as it
agreed.
is to sound, like the play for him to get hurt happened, and he somehow just stood back up and kept going. So
Yeah, 100%. But I think the people that then immediately start calling for Levy's job, and then I quote Levy's burner a ton on the show, but others as well. Freaking our Barstool page. It's just, it makes no sense after you know relentlessly praised him for weeks on weeks. I hated it. The reactions from those people were very dumb in that way.
yeah,
But from the overall game, I'm really happy we played in it. The game itself, you can't have 4 drives inside like the 30-yard line and be forced to kick field goals and turn it over on downs and all of that. Um, that's never going to help you. I am not surprised by the way our defense played. I don't know why um, people thought it was going to be that much different because for one, we don't have Isaac Smith playing that game. We have a new defensive coordinator, and it's still the same players. Like we had enough players to have a decent SEC defense to start the year, and we showed that. But as players got hurt and we were forced to rely on backups, and then execution became a problem, it wasn't going to change when then you face a mobile quarterback and Robbie Ashford. I'm sad Levy didn't get doused in mayo, but I have no different feelings when it comes towards looking towards next year. And we can go ahead and get into that kind of reactions and how we feel towards next year and the portal and all of that. It's very clear we're going to have to target a backup quarterback, like I said. We've already
Another one,
landed
right?
AJ. We're probably going to need another one on top of AJ Swan, who is committed, who hasn't signed, which means his commitment means nothing because we already saw Minchie has already
Yeah.
flipped his commitment in a transfer portal cycle. So it's who knows, but Swan has started SEC games before, started at Vanderbilt, and then was also on LSU. Where I think still we need another one. He's a fine option. I'd love to see another one as well, because
What are
it's very clear that Kamario with his running he's going to put himself in danger a
yeah?
couple times next year.
What is the rest of the room like? I mean, I know Krummenhoek and left. Chapin's
It's
out of the
Parker
picture.
Puckett, I think, is still there. He's a walk on, and then we've got a freshman, Brody McCorder, who
Yeah.
Levy loves, and he's been a guy we've been trying to get. He was our 6 a.m. signee on National Signing Day. Like, he really wants to be here, so we're excited to have him. But I don't think you want a high 3-star quarterback as your backup as a freshman.
Sure. Yeah, so
Even
definitely
if
look
you
at
are
someone
excited
else
about
then.
his potential.
Yeah,
I don't know that you.
that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I don't know if you need anyone besides Swan. Personally, I don't know why you're saying you need to have a third string ready to go. Like, I feel like that's not a super big priority, but that's just I would push back a little bit there and say if we've got Swan, then I think we're
I'll just I think you should try and get someone else. You're not gonna like shell out to get somebody else, obviously, because one, if anyone is worth that kind of money, they're not looking to come play backup anyway.
yeah.
Um,
And I think it was
but
I forget which NFL quarterback it was or who the quote is from, but someone asked, well, why don't you give the backup quarterback reps? And he said, if our starter, and it may have been Peyton Manning or Brady, I don't remember who it was, goes down, then we're fricked, and we don't practice fricked. Only he didn't say fricked. But
yeah,
that's kind of my mentality. Is like we've got Swan, who's seen SEC reps. He'll provide some steadiness, some maturity, some experience. He's a 4th or 5th year guy, I think. And so I don't know what you want to get beyond that, or what you could get beyond that. So that's
I think
my
it's just
Three
so
three quarterbacks is not going to be enough. 3 scholarship quarterbacks at least.
you may go get someone else that's just like not very good, is like just purely a depth piece. Someone like, for example, I mean, A&M signed Jacob Zeno in the last year transfer portal from UAB because he played 4 years at UA or spent 4 years at UAB. Just kind of wanted to almost come hang out at an SEC school. Knew he wasn't going to play, but just
Texas.
maybe get a little more development.
Texas had
Do
their
one of those kind of
guy.
things.
Who was the guy that they had that came in when Arch got hurt?
That was just their true backup.
Yeah, but he
And
was the
so
same way. He was a guy who played like 3 or 4 years at an FCS school, I think, and just kind of came and rode the bench at Texas for a year. So yeah, maybe we'll see. Still a lot
I think
left.
AJ Swan is that guy because AJ Swan was benched twice at App State last year, 2 different times. Was really poor. I have a good friend who went to A&M, but he lives in Boone now, so he went to some of the games, and I kind of got a little report from him. Like, he's just simply not good. He has experience, but what does that really matter if the experience is jumping schools, not playing good ball at the group of 5 level? I mean, it had a 30 QBR, 30.8 QBR this past season.
Yeah.
Like, I get the whole thing, like, you don't practice screwed. Realistically, no matter who you get, if Kamario Taylor goes down with a significant injury, the season's over. But if it's AJ Swan rolling out there to be the backup, I'm like, there's no like, hey, the season's probably over. To me, it's the season is over. Like
Yeah.
it's wraps. So that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do to convince someone to come be a backup.
Yep.
Because you can't even convince someone to come in and like compete for the job and like almost like not lie to them, but like, convince them that there's some competition. Camario's too good to do that.
Yeah.
There's not a realm for that either. They would know they're coming here to be the backup, and would only play if Camario got hurt. Anything else? Do we want to move on? We'll definitely do another state thing in about a week, maybe 2 weeks, week and a half, when kind of the portal wraps up, and we'll go through and kind of break down the portal class, go guy by guy, what we like, what we dislike, what maybe some of the misses were, if y'all are worried about holes still, yada yada yada. But if there's nothing else, we can get into the.
I had
Go ahead.
a quick question. So I want to know y'all's thoughts about. So actually, we mentioned him, Kenny Minchie, the Notre Dame transfer. Me and my younger brother been getting into it. He's a Kentucky fan, and he is very upset that they got Kenny Minchie. He's mad that they lost the freshman, whose name I'm drawing a blank on.
Cutter Boley.
Yes, thank you. Cutter Boley goes to Arizona State, and they land Kenny Minchie. And he's pretty upset about it, just saying that, well, Kentucky's gotten burned in the portal for 3 or 4 years in a row now, with the Brock Vandegrift, the Zach Calzada. I think there's another one thrown in there. So we jokingly, Wynn called it battered Wildcat syndrome that Harris is suffering from right now. I just want to know y'all's thoughts. I tried to tell him, I was like, I think Kenny Minchie, yes, he was the backup at Notre Dame for 2 years. The first year, it was to Riley Leonard, who led the team to a national championship appearance. And then this year is to CJ Carr, who I think is really good. So I just don't see, you're not signing the backup from Georgia Tech, right? Like, you're signing the backup from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I just don't get it either from like a fan standpoint. I'm sure I would have rather kept Cutter Boley, but you brought in the young offensive coordinator, like mastermind guru that everyone really likes, but then you're not happy with the quarterback he brings in, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sure Will Stein would have rather had Sam Levitt or someone like that, but he did kind of go get his guy. He zeroed in on a guy that he liked, is going to bring him in. Clearly liked him enough to be like, yo, we're going to go give you more money than Nebraska's going to give you. Like, don't sign there. Flip your commitment, sign here. So there has to be enough of a want there. So then to go be like, oh, I don't want this guy, when the guy that maybe there's not the biggest track record with his moves, but like, it's not like this is another Mark Stoops guy. Mark Stoops went and got Vandegrift and went and got Calzada, and both those didn't work. So now you have like good reason not to trust his quarterback moves.
Yeah.
But this is a clean slate, so I don't just not getting behind the move a little bit, because I agree he sat behind some good quarterbacks.
And I also told him, I said those previous transfers, guys, you got to view those as sunk costs. Like, take them out of the equation, because it is a different era of Kentucky football. I think also part of it is he's suffering from what we're enjoying right now, and that Kamario Taylor is a state fan, grew up a state fan. He's from Noxubee County, so he's a local guy. I think Cutter Boley is from Lexington, and so I think that Harris was kind of embracing the watching the local childhood Kentucky fan get to be the starter. It's the kind of guy where you hope that you can get 3 or 4 years out of him if he's good enough, and then it kind of sucks that he ends up transferring anyway. I wonder if part of it has to do with Will Stein kind of maybe encouraged him to transfer. That's my thing, is I don't know. I feel like there's a distinct possibility that it was not the quarterback decision to transfer, but a coaching decision to transfer, given how willing Kentucky seemed to invest in quarterback under this new era. And I think they're kind of trying to get their money up after, not performing well in the modern NIL era. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was not a Boley decision, but a coaching decision. And if it's a coaching decision, I feel like you got to trust it, because you hired him because of who he is offensively.
Agreed.
All right, I just wanted y'all's thoughts. Oh, go ahead.
No, it is a little sad that you don't get the hometown stories as much
Yeah,
anymore.
I didn't.
But you just kind of got to move on a little bit.
Yeah, I think maybe it works out and they have a good year this year, and then they can go from there. Kenny Minchie's only a redshirt junior this year. Is that right?
I don't know.
I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
be
he's
honest.
not terribly old. I think that he might have a year or two.
He probably has a
Um,
couple years left because he just hasn't
He,
actually played
he
that much.
he's probably got 7 years.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
let's be
honestly,
honest.
if he hasn't seen the field yet, he probably has 4 years of eligibility left.
You can just keep going for waivers, keep going for waivers, keep going
Yeah.
for waivers.
All right, we can get
I can't wait
into.
for
Oh boy,
Aaron Judge to return to college baseball this year.
where's he gonna play?
I mean, we haven't. Maybe he returns to his alma mater, which I forgot what it was. But we haven't. Austin Riley needs to return and play third base for
Oh
us
yeah,
this year,
not
since
this
he never
year. We
played.
got Ace Reese 2 years
Uh,
ago.
we
One of
could
those
platoon.
DH.
We could platoon
Yeah.
there.
I mean, I'd be all right with Aaron Judge as designated hitter. He can go hang out
Aaron,
in the left field lofts and then just come out there for his at bats.
Gosh, can you imagine him with a metal bat?
Aaron Judge played at Fresno State.
Interesting.
Gotcha. That's right.
But yeah, this is not the year we need a third baseman. Now, 2 years ago when we had Logan Kohler out, no, it wasn't even Logan Kohler because he tore his labrum or his pectoral or something. So
Was it not Slate?
was it Slade Alford? No,
I think so.
it
I
was
think it was 2 years
it
ago,
was
it
the
was
year
Slate.
after Slate. It was the year after Slate.
Well,
Logan
Slate
Kohler was
left.
looking decent through like the first few games and then got injured, and then we like played two guys like for like half the season.
I don't know. I'm gonna go refill my coffee mug. And then we
Okay,
get into
I'm
the
gonna
next
I'm gonna
segment.
figure this out. This is actually perfect. 2022 Mississippi State baseball. I think Nate Chester saw playing time there at third base, and he was more of a second base guy. So I can't remember exactly who it was though. I want to see schedule. What year was that? It would have been Ace Reese was there last year. The year before that, I think it was Logan Kohler, but that was his healthy year. 2025 was Ace. 2024, maybe it's 2023. Let's see. That was fast. Coffee refill.
Well, I'm maybe 3 steps away from my kitchen.
Oh.
So
Oh, I
should take
forgot you were
long.
home now. I thought you were still.
Yeah, I'm back in Starkville.
Okay, hold on. Give me just a sec. I'm gonna Mississippi State. Amani, who played left or third base? Third base. Third base. Oh, that was Slade Alford in 2023. So who was? Was it 2024, or who started the season there? Because that wasn't Slate's freshman year. Have I not gone back fast enough or far enough? Colton Ledbetter, third base, third base. Slade Alford again. Bro, where did when was Logan Kohler here?
I don't recognize the name at all.
You
I'm
don't
also
recognize
not a
the
State
name
fan.
Logan Kohler?
No.
I think he was a lefty. But I don't remember what years. I bet I could just look at game stats. That's what I'm gonna do. Logan Kohler. $2024. Okay, so I went back too far. That's what it was. All right, I'll look in. I'll keep digging. Now that you got your coffee, I don't want to keep us sitting here for too long. So Jack, you
Yeah,
go
I'm
ahead
good.
and get us into. We want to start Miami versus Ole Miss is Thursday night, so we'll start there.
Yeah, we'll do that one first.
All right, go ahead.
It really so much pain to even have to utter this sentence that Ole Miss and Miami will face off in the semifinals of the college football playoffs in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. 6:30 kickoff Thursday evening. Miami's favored by 3.5. Y'all's thoughts about this game, key matchups, key players, key trends, whatever you got for me and for the listeners, give it to us.
Do we just want to start
Uh,
with? I was gonna say let's just start with saying we all hate this, and then we can just not address the fact that it's our rival for the rest of this.
It's gonna get brought up. It has to.
I don't hate this. I'm completely at peace. So
All right,
Okay.
I need you to
I'm,
explain
I'm
then. I need you to explain how you can be at peace with us losing our bowl game and watching Ole Miss in the semifinals. For like, I feel like they're connected.
no, I don't think they are. I, because I know, quite frankly, that it at least feels to me that the future this is the ceiling at best of the future of this program. With the loss of Lane Kiffin, they I that's a weird face because you think Pete Golding's gonna be able to replicate what he did across 9 SEC games,
I
and
think
have to
that
do that across
Without
6 of those
without
SEC games,
without
and
Charlie White.
then
the reason I make that
it's
face is because 3 weeks ago when Kiffin left, it was all right. Let's see how what part of this roster can Pete Golding hold together. It's gonna fall apart. And then it didn't fall apart. It's like, well, how is Pete Golding looking a game? He's going to get smoked by Georgia because they couldn't even win the first time, and that was with Lane Kiffin, and then he wins. And now the roster is sticking together, right? They're holding the roster together. They're still recruiting. They just flipped Jace Matthews, a 5-star recruit in the state of Mississippi from Auburn. Like, he's checking all the boxes. I'm not saying that Ole Miss is going to become a blue chip powerhouse, but like Pete Golding is checking all of the necessary boxes, keeping all the pieces in place. Trinidad Chambliss will be back if he gets his extension or his waiver, whatever. And let's be honest, he's going to get his waiver because it's the NCAA and they don't care or have any power. Kawan Lacey just signed to come back. Like, he's keeping the roster together, which we didn't think was going to happen. He won a playoff game, which we didn't think was going to happen. It's just I'm not comfortable or willing to say that I think that this program has had a ceiling because everything that I thought was going to happen has not happened so far.
What's the like? I'm trying to think. Was it? Oh man, who am I? So, perfect example. Actually, I don't know why it's taking me so long to think of it. Right, coach leaves. Coach steps in. Interim coach does a phenomenal job at like not messing up the formula that was already there. He knows the winning formula is in place. The right pieces are in place. He doesn't mess it up. He hits the right buttons. He lets the offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss, still do his thing. He doesn't get too involved. He just still, handles his defense. And so it works perfectly, right? Let me take you back to what was that? 2021. Mississippi State's head baseball coach was caught being horny in the dugout, basically having an affair, texting his mistress from the dugout. He gets booted. In comes Chris Lemonis, right?
It was
Chris Lemonis,
2019, but yeah, I see where you're going.
2019. Chris
Or in there
Lemonis
somewhere.
understands what he's been gifted and not to mess with it, rides that formula out. Boom, national championship. Everyone's ecstatic. This maybe is better. Like it may be for the best that our coach got canned. And here we are 5 years later, and Lemonis missed the postseason multiple times, never returned back to the College World Series. I don't even know if he got back to a super regional. It's just still so different. And so I'm not as optimistic as JP that he's not going to be able to do it. But there is so much for time to tell.
Yeah.
Because it really
it's
is
too
just still Lane
early.
Kiffin's team. It's just still Lane Kiffin's team in so many ways.
It's
It's what
it's
he put together and
yeah.
built.
It's way too early to make the conclusion that what you're seeing right now is what it's going to be. It's also it's wrong to deal in absolutes. Just because what you didn't expect to happen has happened twice, 3 times. Let's say in one playoff game, and you didn't think he would keep the guys coming back next year, and you didn't think he would recruit well. Okay, that's 3 times. I'll tell you from personal experience, this applies nothing to football. I played golf this past weekend. I made my first 3 putts on the green. I didn't make another putt really the rest of the day. you can't just take the first three things and just say that that's what it's going to be in the future. Because quite frankly, like we haven't seen it over the course of a season. We are seeing this group of guys want to commit to the brand and stick it to Lane Kiffin and all of that. But will we see the next group of guys? I give them full credit for winning the playoff game, but Pete Golding's built on defense. They have had a pretty bad defense all year. They showed another bad defense in the playoff game against Georgia. If not for the first round bye effect and that Georgia was unable to score points in the first quarter, that game probably looks differently. And on top of that, what had to happen did happen, and that was Trinidad Chambliss had to be Superman, and he was Superman in that game, and they were able to escape with a victory. If Georgia, just gets down there and is able to score a touchdown, we're talking about a completely different story. They had first and goal, they can't score a touchdown. Instead, they kick a field goal, and Trinidad is able to get them in field goal range. So, I think we're missing a few of the steps in the what is also giving him the credibility at this standpoint as well. Um, I don't expect to continue, and that's why I'm perfectly content with them being in this spot. I'm ready, excited to watch this football game because as we get to the football game now, I can't wait to see what is now like kind of unquestionably the best, at least playing that way, the best offense that Miami will have seen this year.
Yeah.
I still think A&M has a better offense than Ole Miss, but they had not been playing that way for the final 3 weeks of the season, and of course didn't play that way in the playoff game.
Yeah.
Ohio State, it felt like maybe they were pulling punches. We kind of fizzled out that theory after the Miami game. Um, I can't wait to see that kind of test um, against that Miami front and Federico, or not Federico, Akeem Mesidor, sorry, Federico's the corner, and Ruben Bain, and see how they, handle the run game. It's also like maybe you could argue it's the best running game Miami has faced really all year with Kawan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss as a combo. That maybe Isaac Brown, really gave them a ton of trouble in the Louisville game earlier this year at Miami. He ran all over Miami, and they were also able to hit some passes in that game with Miller Moss. That seems like the formula that, Ole Miss would like to recreate, and that they're able to run the football effectively with Kawhi and Lacey. Trinidad's able to do his Superman stuff, and then Pete Golding is able to force turnovers, force Carson Beck to beat you. And I think that's going to be a huge key to this game for the Rebels. I think they've got to punch first again, and take the early lead because we haven't seen it yet with Miami in the playoff, and we haven't seen it for a while now. We haven't seen them go, have to come from behind. They had to do that against SMU. They kind of had to do that against Louisville, more so Louisville than SMU. And Carson Beck was forced to throw the football, and he turned it over multiple times, 4 times against Louisville, twice against SMU. That Ole Miss defense can be opportunistic. A lot of defenses that have the talent can be opportunistic, and at the same time, Carson Beck can just throw you a mallard and it lands right in your lap, and you take it. I want to see Ole Miss see if they can punch first. Really nobody has moved the ball in Miami except for A&M at the end of their game where they drove right down the field with ease, and then Ohio State to start the second half. But from there, it fizzled out. Can Ole Miss, find extended drives against Miami? And that defense is a huge question in this game because I also think there's a very easy scenario where they can't move the ball. And, Mark Fletcher, because the Ole Miss rush defense is, they're outside the top 50 in terms of yards per game. Mark Fletcher is able to run the football really well from Miami. They take the early lead. Trinidad's put into obvious passing situations. And if you don't know football, obvious passing situations is against an elite front, a recipe for disaster for the offense. I think there's two ways that this can go, and that Ole Miss punches first, and we see another Superman effect from Trinidad, and Carson Beck is forced to beat Ole Miss, or Miami is able to slow down Trinidad to start that first quarter, and then they're able to run the football and take a lead, and it's kind of a boring game for 4 quarters. Those are the two scenarios I see. Those are the two likely scenarios for both those teams to win for me.
Yeah. The interesting battle here for me, and you've touched on it a lot already, but this Ole Miss defensive line and offensive line, especially their defensive line, but they don't exactly. They've there's been talent mismatches in their, definitely against Georgia on that front, and they've had them earlier in the season too. But they're just really good about scheming around those talent disadvantages, quick throws, Chambliss's legs. They're really good running game, kind of like you talked about. You got to stay on script. You can't get in long passing downs. So it's like, are you going to be able to do that again against Miami, a team that definitely has a good talent advantage on the line of scrimmage against you, because they basically do against almost everyone. So you're going to be able to do that again because you've done it to the other teams, or is like Miami's so good that it doesn't really matter, and they're going to be able to, their secondary is going to be able to play well and slow down the quick passing game and yada yada yada. So I'm interested, like, who wins there? What breaks there? Is the conventional logic of, well, Miami's just better on the line, so they're going to win out, or is Ole Miss going to pull off their wacky, Charlie Weiss is a genius, Trinidad Chambliss can just play hero ball and throw balls with perfect placement, go crazy in the backfield, scramble, and then hit a guy. Like, who's going to win out there? And I don't know. I'm interested to watch, but I think that's really what's going to matter here, because I think we kind of know what Ole Miss is, defensively. Like, I don't think they're just going to shut out Miami. So then the offense is going to have to figure out a way to do what they always do, to their credit, and that's find ways to score against a defensive unit that realistically is better than them, but it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not better. Maybe they're not better. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
on paper better is what I should say.
I think this will be really interesting to see how the Miami defense plays, given that Marcel Reed did not play well in the chaos they created, and Trinidad Chambliss played excellent in chaos against Georgia. Gave up 0 sacks due to his ability to escape the pocket, create downfield stuff just by, running around. Almost Johnny I'm not comparing him to Johnny Manziel. I don't think Trinidad Chambliss is Johnny Manziel, but just his ability to create and roll one way and then use the blocker who's coming across the field to create some space and time. I think it'll be interesting to see how does this Miami defense play. How does this secondary play when you've got to cover guys for 4-5 seconds. Getting up there into the 6s if he's really running from sideline to sideline, which we saw him do once or twice against Georgia in big moments. I think that's what I'll be watching, is this Miami secondary, because I know this Miami defensive line is good. It's great. It's fantastic. Ruben Bain and the other Messidor are fantastic. I think they're going to get pressure to Trinidad. I think they're going to make things chaotic, but that's kind of where he thrived in their last game against Georgia. So, how does the secondary hold up? Can they keep guys blanketed so that the third defensive lineman who gets to Trinidad can get him down? Our linebackers going to be able to spy him and keep him from turning it, what should have been sacks into, 8, 10, 15-yard runs, stuff like that. That's what I'll be watching for as far as the offense versus the defense goes. For Ole Miss's defense, can you make Carson Beck have that bad game we talked about before the A&M game? He did not have it against A&M. He had a really good game. But we've talked about, it before the A&M game, saying that Carson Beck always has the potential for an atrocious game. After the game, we said he also had the potential for a great game, which we didn't discuss as a possibility, but it's there. And he had it against A&M. He had the game that he needed to.
I don't know if I'd call it great. He did what he needed to do.
Yeah, he did what he needed to do. Against a really good A&M defense, which I think is doing what you need to do against an elite defense, is approaching greatness, or at least, in a one-off game can be approaching greatness. So he did exactly what he needed to do. It was a good performance. True. Can Ole Miss force the turnovers that we've come to think of and associate with Beck in big games? That's what I'll be watching for.
I think that's fair. Shall we pick this game? Or do you have one more thing you want to add, JP?
Yeah, one thing to note, Miami, they've been really stout defensively for a month now. But in their two losses, Louisville, SMU, Kevin Jennings in the SMU game threw for 365, and in the Louisville game, Miller Moss threw for around 250. Isaac Brown ran for nearly 120 on the ground. They they've given up big time yards to lesser quarterbacks than Trinidad Chambliss. So don't be look. I personally would be a little bit surprised if Trinidad has an excellent game. Just
Sure.
everything given and the way that defense is playing, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. On the other hand, Trinidad, he has not had really. He's had one bad game really all year as a starter, and that was against South Carolina, where he was 12 for 21 for 159, a touchdown and an interception. They won that game by 16 points. They didn't need him. Kwan Lacey played really well that day. I think it's going to be, as Sanders was saying, really key for Miami and that secondary to plaster really well, and for Ruben Bain and Mesidor and other defensive linemen to contain really well. Because Trinidad, while he's had great carries in games, he's had great rushing days. In the Georgia game, 4 carries for 14 yards, a long of 5 yards. That was the longest carry of the day. He is right now
Which Georgia game?
looking downfield, looking this Georgia
Okay.
game that was just
The
played.
playoff one. Yeah.
And the other Georgia game, he had 16-yard run, which was a touchdown down in the red zone. He's looking down the field. He's looking to hit deep shots down the field, and he's not afraid to let it loose. You got to plaster well. You got to contain well. I think it may be a little bit of a because of the two games that we've seen with Miami, and because they were such high profile. That Miami Texas A&M game was the best game on paper. It felt like for the opening round, and that Ohio State game was two big brands. I think people are going to be surprised if Trinidad has an amazing day. Don't be, because it's definitely within the realm of possibilities. That's how good he's playing, and that Miami defense isn't, everything. They've been playing really well, but in their two losses, they got cooked.
Sure. Well, let's get into picking it. Then we've already mentioned Miami is a 3.5-point favorite. I don't know
I'm in the lead.
who you're in the lead. Okay.
Yep. I got back to 500 with a 3-2
yeah.
week.
You had a much better week than me and
Yeah,
JP.
tough
so
week from
give your
JP and
pick.
you. Y'all both went 1-4. I went 3-2. I'll be going Miami. I can't pick Ole Miss, but I also do believe in this Miami team after watching them play Ohio State. An Ohio State team, I'm not going to say they're overrated, but they underwhelmed. Is that fair? An Ohio State team, I think, underwhelmed given the expectations coming into the season, the expectations going into the Big Ten championship. I still think that was a great game from Miami and a great win. So I'll be going Miami.
JP, you're next.
Yeah, you speak to it. Miami was a 9.5-point dog against Ohio State. Like that was 10 versus number 2. That's a big time upset for them, and they really put a lot of shock to the college football world in that. They've been playing exceptional throughout the playoffs, especially defensively. When I look at picking this game, I think of two things. I think of one, the environment out there in the Fiesta Bowl. I think both crowds are going to really travel really well, and I don't know what color Old Miss is wearing, but I hope they wear maybe the powder. Powder versus the orange would look pretty cool. Although they don't like the powder, the Old Miss fans, it looked cool during the Sugar Bowl. It looked really cool, and they out traveled Georgia in that game. So I'm curious to see what that'll be. But I think of the environment, and I think of Mario Cristobal and Pete Golding, and it's just who do I trust more in this game? And as shocking as it may seem, I'm gonna take Mario Cristobal as the guy I trust more in a football game. It seems like he's got his Hurricanes rolling and playing with a lot of fire, a lot of competitiveness, and I think this will be the end of the line for the Rebels. Give me Miami and the Hurricanes to win the Fiesta Bowl. which is presented by Verbo.
Yeah, sounds
That's
Verbo
just an
Fiesta
important
Bowl
note.
is very important to note that. You mentioned Miami's rolling, very true. But Ole Miss is kind of rolling too. Like this at this point, these teams have they simply are. They're all kind of rolling. They've all found their groove at the right
But
time.
say to
I'm
make
gonna
the
take.
semifinals, you have to be rolling. That's kind of how it is.
Technically, you could like Miami could have eked one out against Alabama, or not Miami. Indiana could have eked one out against Alabama. They've played one game, and it's kind of like,
That's fair.
okay, are they really rolling? But that's me more playing devil's advocate than anything. I'm gonna take Ole Miss to cover, but I think Miami's gonna win by 3. I think it's gonna be a really close game. I don't really think Miami's just gonna like pull away from teams, and I think Ole Miss is gonna score enough to keep it close. But Miami will get that last final drive they've done in this playoff, where they have a lead, or maybe it's a tie game, and they just drive down. They've worn down the other team's defensive front. Mark Fletcher gets going, and they either drive to get a field goal to win it, or maybe they drive to make it a 10-point game, and Ole Miss marches back down and scores a touchdown, but it doesn't really matter because there's no time left, something like that. But give me Ole Miss to cover, and we can wrap that up and move on to the other semifinal game.
Yeah. Welcome in, Sven. Hail State. Yeah, the Miami line is fantastic. Yeah, he's got Miami winning, not Ole Miss covering. He's got Miami covering 27-20. Sven, we're about to preview Oregon versus Indiana, but if you want to drop your thoughts, we already reviewed the state bowl game. I think the consensus is grateful Camario's okay. Don't hate that we left him in. But yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the bowl game and your thoughts on the transfer portal. We just had a prediction logged for us to land an Iowa State redshirt freshman quarterback Quentin Taylor, who was a guy
Quarter or corner?
Corner.
Keyword.
Yeah, CB. He's a DB. So it's a guy that I wanted, and Tucker texted me about it to let me know. So I think we're pretty excited about that. It's not anything official; it's just a prediction, but we'll see how that
Shout out
goes.
Tucker.
While we wait for Sven to drop his thoughts,
What did I call Tucker again?
Tanner.
Hunter?
Call him Tanner.
Tanner Medlin.
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started on Oregon versus Indiana.
Yep. The other side of the semifinal, or the other side of the bracket, the other semifinal game. It's a Big Ten matchup and a rematch of an earlier season game when Indiana went to Oregon and beat Oregon, and they face off again here in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Oregon's the 5 seed, Indiana's the 1 seed. It'll be 6:30 on Friday, and Indiana is favored by 3.5 in this game. What are y'all's key thoughts for this game? What are you looking forward to? Whatever you got, give it to me.
I think it's been mentioned by everybody, and it's hard to. Again, I'm gonna do this in every time we talk about Indiana, at least for this season. The shock to the census game earlier this year was when Indiana went to Autzen Stadium and upset Oregon.
Yep.
Indiana at the time was the 7th ranked team in the country. Oregon was number 3. Indiana rolled into that game as, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 9.5-point dogs. A very big dog to the Oregon Ducks. And, again, like I said, I'm going to mention every preview. The turnaround for Indiana to now be favored against Oregon in a rematch, the turnaround to have won that game at Autzen Stadium, and then the turnaround to have done what just happened last week in the Rose Bowl, 38-3 over the Alabama Crimson Tide. Sorry, Sanders, if that pains you hearing that again.
I'm sure it did.
You can say it again.
It's
Go ahead. You can yell it. It's exciting.
It's still shocking to the senses what Indiana has done this year. Now here they are favored in the rematch here in Atlanta. 45 minutes for me. That first game, it was a shock to the senses because it wasn't like it was a game where Oregon went out there and played terrible. Didn't have any punches that they threw themselves. No, Indiana went out there and they won that game. Indiana played incredible throughout that entire game. They were leading pretty much almost wire to wire, except for a few ties at certain moments. Fernando Mendoza, there was a key pick 6 in the fourth quarter. And then this was something I talked about when we talked about that game right after and the reaction. It's something to be said about really, really good teams, really disciplined teams, the best of the best, And then something to consider for Fernando Mendoza going forward with his draft in the NFL to respond to a pick six with the drive that they responded with, ending in a roughly 20-yard touchdown pass to Elijah Surratt, to go 12 plays, 75 yards in 7 minutes, and immediately respond with a touchdown on the road in Autzen Stadium showed the competitive character and integrity and just the lack of woes that this Indiana team has. And so when you think about what's coming into this game, Oregon had one of the better offensive days we've seen against Texas Tech this year, one of the best defenses in college football. They, of course, had the elite offensive day against JMU. It feels like, consensus coming into this game might feel the lean towards Oregon a little bit, even with what Indiana did against Alabama. Look, I've talked with a ton of people. I've talked with Bama fans. I've talked with, people here in Georgia, older gentlemen. Um, that was a complete shock to a ton of people. Everyone thought Bama was going to win that game, and no one really understands what Indiana is at this point.
Yeah.
And I think it's just another chance for Kurt Signetti to take that, turn it on its head, and be able to use it as more motivation towards beating Oregon. This is going to be a motivation off, a discipline off, an execution off. With Oregon and Dan Lanning and his speeches, and then Kurt Signetti and his just unflappable character. You think of the Rose Bowl when Bama lines up to punt in that game, and Ty Simpson is in the huddle. They break the huddle. Ty Simpson is one of the blockers, goes under the quarterback, tries to hard count. Bama's forced to call the timeout. They pan to Signetti. He hasn't moved a muscle. That's the kind of discipline that this Indiana team plays with. And so I don't think they're going to be, they have nothing to fear in this game. And I think it's going to come down to execution. And so the question then becomes, can Oregon out execute Indiana? Can Dante Moore avoid interceptions? Can they convert in key moments? That was a huge problem against Texas Tech. If Texas Tech shows any pulse offensively in that game's probably a lot closer than it really should have been, because Oregon is in Texas Tech territory. In fact, they have 6 drives in that game in Texas Tech territory, resulting in 6 points, 1 point per drive. That can't happen against Indiana. For one, it's not going to happen. I don't think you're going to get, that many drives potentially in Indiana territory. You might look at 3, 4, 5. And so you're going to have to score on all of them, because with the way Indiana is playing offensively themselves, I don't think we've even seen their ceiling yet. They really just ran the football all over Alabama last week. And I do think there's a lot in the passing game with Fernando Mendoza and Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt that we've yet to see. I think this is Oregon's game to go win and Indiana's game to lose. And I don't think Indiana is going to go out there and lose it for Oregon. So I think if you're going to pick Oregon, you got to think they're going to have to out-execute Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think anyone's going to have to out-execute Indiana. They've shown they're the best team. Now, if I do think there's one team left that I would trust to do it the most, it is Oregon. They have dogs. They've shown they can run the ball even when it's tough and the boxes are stacked. If they need a couple yards, they can get it. Dante Moore is a phenomenal QB, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Their outside weapons are maybe it's not the deepest group, but they have made plays when it's necessary, and their tight end tandem's electric. So if some team is going to go out there and just flat out beat Indiana and almost beat them at their own game of just cold-blooded execution, no mistakes, I think it is Oregon. But that's just a really tall task, because I agree. I don't think you're going to come see a dud from Indiana where Mendoza has a day where he throws 3 picks, or, his completion percentage is like 49% and they can't really run the ball and they're giving up 6 yards a carry or something crazy like that. I think this game is probably going to come down to the wire, and it's just really hard not to, I just praised Oregon's ability to execute, but even so, it's just really hard not to trust Indiana. to get wins in this moment because Cignetti was right. I mean, he just wins. You Google me, and that's what he's done, and he does it time and time again, no matter what the stakes are, no matter who's playing, no matter what the score is. If it's a blowout, defensive, slugfest, shootout, whatever, he's there. He's got it. I'm really excited to watch this game. I think this could be the game of the playoffs.
Yeah,
Personally,
and I think
that's my expectation for it. So I'm going to get let down probably, but that's where I'm at.
the story here, I think, is coming into the playoffs. We had a conversation and a video title, and I'll just reread it: is could Oregon be this year's Ohio State? Right, a team that lost in the regular season, but they're going to get hot. They're going to get healthy at the right time. They're going to get the warm-up game. This year for Oregon, it was against JMU. For Ohio State, last year it was Tennessee. Could this year's Oregon be Ohio State? They dominate JMU. They dominate Tech. Not they go up, and then JMU makes it a semi-close game and ends up losing by 3 possessions. We had that fun argument last week. Then they dominate Texas Tech truly on the defensive side of the ball, and they're able to get it done offensively. And now they're in the exact same situation Ohio State was in, or at least a similar one, right? Ohio State loses to Oregon in the regular season. Oregon is the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State comes in and beats them in the rematch, goes on to win the championship. Now this year we've got Oregon, who lost to Indiana in the Big Ten championship, but lost to Indiana but outside of the playoffs, and now they come in this year, or in the playoffs, and you get to face them again. Maybe you're a little bit healthier. Maybe you're warmed up. I'm just interested to see how that plays out. It's not the exact same situation. Indiana played Alabama last week, so they are not in the same. They're not cold like Oregon found themselves last year playing in the quarterfinals. But I think that the stories and the narratives are there to be written. I'll be interested to see if that's how it plays out.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
They say a ton. Yeah, they say a ton that it's hard to beat a team twice. That's obviously a phrase that is used a ton. We've seen that already play out twice in the playoff. Ole Miss beating Georgia in the rematch, and Bama beating Oklahoma in the rematch. So who's to say we won't see it again? I think big X factor. I think that's what you're about to ask, Jack. In the first game, Dante Moore was sacked 6 times. Fernando Mendoza was only sacked once. I think X factor right there off the bat. That none of those sacks include the elite pass rusher for Indiana that tore his ACL in the celebration. So you could say maybe the production could still be there. Dante Moore's going to have to protect himself. He took a ton of sacks even last week against Texas Tech. And a lot of those they were backbreaking. That is why they lost points in certain circumstances, because he took those 11, 12-yard sacks. He cannot afford to do that in a game like this. Oregon's not going to have Evan Stewart. He still won't play in this game. So I look for them to have to get the ball out quickly. Oregon did not run the football necessarily great in the first game as well against Indiana. They compared to how they've ran it all year, which all year they've led college football in yards per carry. I think run game is a really critical X factor for Oregon. Putting them in the less obvious passing situations, of course, for Dante Moore, and avoiding the sacks that could cost them in key moments. It's right now these are what for a lot of people 1 and 2, and maybe 1A and 1B in terms of the quarterback prospects in this year's draft. And so to get to see them play against each other on the national stage, maybe this decides the number 1 overall pick. Look, right now, I'd go with Dante Moore. I think he's a better player than Fernando Mendoza, but this is also still a team game. So I can't wait for the storylines to potentially dwell from that. Rivalries down the road as well, and a rematch between these two quarterbacks. And there's gonna be a lot of eyes on this. These are two, you might argue, futures of franchises. Now, one of them is going to be screwed and their career is over because they're going to be drafted by the Jets. But the other might have a chance with the Las Vegas Raiders. Who knows?
I think that's the best case for Dante Moore to go back to school right there, is dodge the Jets potentially.
Todd McShay said that he should call the Las Vegas Raiders and press them over the next 2 months. And if they tell him they won't take him at 1, he should go back to college because the Jets are going to take him at 2. That was his personal advice to Dante Moore,
But if he goes to the Jets,
former
he can keep
ESPN
all of his
analyst.
green like
Today.
drip and apparel because it just carries over.
Yeah, but and then that, and then it's over, and then your career's over, and you are just back to wearing that Oregon apparel and drip because those are your glory days,
Yeah,
and you're probably back on campus in 5 years doing a college game day, um,
Or
so
playing.
or
Who
yeah,
knows?
or playing at
He
this
could just
point.
return.
yeah. Use his eighth
Um,
and 10th years of eligibility.
I think that was a storyline that I haven't seen this week of that this might be 1 and 2 in this year's draft, and it's
Yeah,
just you don't get to see that very often.
No, I think that's why I'm so excited to watch this game is to watch those two guys ball out and make phenomenal throws. They're two of the more pro-ready guys too, and so it's see them be in control. It's so fun to watch a quarterback be in control of the football game, um, and you don't see that very much in college these days. And we should see it in this game. Even if they make mistakes, you expect them to bounce back and get it right the next time, and that's so much fun.
Mhm.
Sanders, you're in the lead of the pick'em, so you get first pick here. Indiana is favored by 3.5. What's your pick?
yeah. I talked about all the potential stories and potential narratives around Oregon being this year's Ohio State. Um, with the a couple games of warm up, the getting healthy, DeCorian Moore playing really well right now, just kind of clicking on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders. And Oregon might be this year's Ohio State, but Indiana is not this year's Oregon. I'm going to go with Indiana. I think that Kurt
Sure.
Cignetti is a fantastic coach, and he doesn't have the most talented roster on paper, but they just play so well, and he coaches so well, and he's got a staff there that they're going to win. Like you said earlier, his quote, "Google me because he wins." It's fire. Everything about him is, max aura, standing on the sideline without a smile on his face. It's incredible. So I'm going to go Indiana.
Did y'all see real quick the meme, or not the meme, but it was a tweet or something? Kurt Snetti looks like Mr. Incredible's boss when he works insurance in The Incredibles.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Wait, is the
Well,
meme
it's
about.
very true. It's just Kurt Snetti looks like
Oh, yes, I have
Mr.
seen that. I
Incredible's
have seen
boss.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's very true. And that's very disrespectful to Kurt Cignetti because he's way cooler and a better person than Mr. Incredible's boss is.
Yeah.
But that has stuck with me this whole week. What's your pick, JP?
I think it's gonna be low scoring. With the way these two defenses are playing, I think it's gonna be you know, a lot of maybe missed opportunities is the word for it. Getting down in the red zone and being forced to kick a field goal. I see that on both sides in this game. And, Indiana dealt with that last week in the Rose Bowl just once, but it was that first drive of the game. They couldn't get the play call into Fernando Mendoza. And then Oregon, of course, dealt with that a ton against Texas Tech last week. So I think we're looking at a game that is in the teens, low scoring again, but
Race
I,
to
I
20,
think
dare
it's
you
going to
say?
be. No, I don't think it's going to be a race to 20. I
Okay.
won't put that on it, but I do think it's one of those
Good,
games
because every
where,
time we do, it doesn't work out.
yeah,
I've been right once.
well, maybe I should put it on that because I would like to see lights outscoring both sides. But I think this is a game that's in the teens, but it's in the teens because teams are forced to kick field goals and not because teams are incapable of scoring points. Um, I'm gonna take Indiana to win this game, and I think I'll pick them until they get beat, which then I won't be able to pick them anymore. So give me the
Sure.
Hoosiers. I'll take them to cover the 3.5 as well. 21-17 Indiana.
I'm going to take Indiana as well. I think it's when doing a pick 'em like this, it's just even just playing odds. Like it's kind of foolish not to pick Indiana at this point. And when the spread is 3.5, I'm also just going to back that and back Indiana to cover that as well because of what they've done all season, who's coaching them, who there's who who they have at quarterback, their defensive playmakers. I could go on and on and on. So I just don't think there's any reason not to pick Indiana to win this game. Uh, in terms of the chat, Trail. We should be back in the studio. Will we be in the studio Thursday, Sanders, me and you?
Let's see. Thursday. Yeah, we should be.
Okay.
We should be.
We should be in the studio Thursday, and then we may be in the studio kind of just from here on out as we're coming back from the holidays.
Yeah, we'll
Maybe
figure that
not.
out.
Maybe not Sunday, but we are very close because we missed the studio two trail. We're very close to being back in it basically full time, and couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. I also want to say, Sven, I hope that your holiday travels went well. I know you said that you were in Canada, so if you've gone home, hope all that went well. I've flown. I've been to Europe once, and that plane ride, I think it was 7 hours, is miserable. And then my mom didn't help it because she was like, "Now be sure to get up and walk, because if you sit still for too long, you can like form blood clots in your legs." And so the whole time I was on the plane, like, am I gonna be
Worried
able to
about blood
walk? Am I
clots.
gonna come out of this thing paralyzed? So she scared me. Um, but yeah, ready to be back in the studio. I also have breaking news. I have won our pick'em, so congratulations to y'all. I have a 3-game lead, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
have me and JP have both picked Miami and Indiana to cover in the first 2 games we previewed. I think it was technically I won after the Miami game because going into today with a 3-game lead, JP could have tied it. And now that we have both picked the same
You
team,
did win. Yep.
it's been a great season, a long season. Now the goal is to finish above 500. That's where I'm hoping to get. I'm at 51 and 51 now. We'll see.
Sure.
We got
I'd love to give a quick message to all my fans. Third place finish. It's a little. It's unacceptable personally. Maybe I'll say the quiet part out loud. Has there potentially been some tanking done in the past couple weeks trying to secure a better draft pick? No, we just simply weren't good enough, and we'll look to remedy that next season. We'll do some. We'll look internally, front office, coaching staff. Changes will probably have to be made, and just stick with us. We'll get this right, and we'll get back to our winning ways, or maybe just our winning ways for the first time because there's nothing to get back to. But I apologize formally.
Yeah. I'll also say, Sven, I'm jealous of y'all's snow. We spent our Christmas, it was about 70, 75 degrees here at home. We spent our Christmas with the windows open, doors were open. We had a bunch of family over. We had soup because that's what my mom made for Christmas because she's like, oh, it's Christmas. Soup will be great. We should have had ribs and fireworks. Like, we should have been grilling. I mean, it felt like the 4th of July. Here in Mississippi. So I am jealous that y'all are getting some snow in Germany. But yeah, it was good. We're happy to have you here, Trail. We've missed having you the past couple of shows. And yeah, we're ready to be back in the studio. One question for y'all. You said, JP, the thing about quarterbacks, like, 1 versus 2, I'm curious because I want to look back. When you say that, would you take the first quarterback versus the second quarterback, or does it have to be 2 quarterbacks who went 1 and 2 overall?
I would say quarterbacks that went 1 and 2 overall.
Okay.
Because I just think that,
Yeah.
or I guess if there's a scenario where it was 1 and 3 overall, because that second team doesn't need a quarterback, but 1 and 2.
Yeah. I mean, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, I don't believe played in a bowl game ever.
Nope.
RG Bryce Young and
RG3 and Andrew Luck didn't play.
Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, did they face off in a playoff game? No.
Nope.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett was not drafted first overall. Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson, we never saw that. We saw Joe Burrow versus Tua Tagovailoa, and that was 1 and 5. I don't know if you would count that one. So this is Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. I don't think we ever got that. Yeah, this is uncharted territory potentially if Darnold does not just Red Star Donald. If Dante Moore does decide to go to the draft, we could be seeing unprecedented. That'll be interesting to see. So I'm excited to watch that. So we can go ahead and move on. Sven, I'm jealous. December 25th and 8 feet of snow is crazy. Y'all ready for NFL?
Mariota and Jameis Winston, were they drafted 1-2?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so they faced off.
They went 1-2.
They
Florida
faced off in the
State,
playoffs.
yeah, in the
Yeah,
playoffs, yeah.
it's a great pool, Sven. So it has happened before, but it's been a while.
Oh, yeah, he cooked. Um, yeah,
But yeah,
and it's a
we're ready to
playoff
move on to the
game. That's
NFL.
that's a great comp too. So this would be the first,
Yeah,
definitely the first playoff game where we've seen 1-2 face off, and that was the
that was a
first.
playoff game. That was a playoff game. They
That's
faced off in the playoffs.
yeah. This is the first one since then.
Yes,
That's what I meant
correct.
to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
And
Gotcha,
was
gotcha, gotcha.
that was year one of the playoff too? Crazy, man. That's
That was
that's a little bit of fun history right there. All right, let's do takeaways.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some weekly NFL takeaways here. But it was the final week of the season. There was some great drama moments. There was a lot of nothing burgers as teams were sitting guys out to tank or their seed was locked in, so they weren't playing guys. A lot of random names. Some people trying to get incentives, make their money. Yada yada yada. We'll start with the Saturday games, and one of them was two of them were massive. Actually, we won't because we previewed both those personally. So I lied, just straight to y'all's face. We're moving into Sunday. Anything on your Saints, JP? Their final game of the season, they did lose. Thoughts on Chuck's performance? Thoughts on what you saw from the team? I'm sure you weren't really sad to lose. It's a better draft pick for you. You wanted to win, or that was you saying I'm not sad to lose?
Correct.
Okay,
I That was best case scenario, honestly.
sure.
Um, Tyler Shuck cooked, besides the one pick, but I don't blame that on him. Sometimes you're gonna throw picks. The dude was throwing the plumbers all day, throwing
Sure, no Chris Olave, so
to security personnel. Yeah, no Olave, which for him to be able to do what he has done over multiple weeks, where it's just like Chris Olave is his only weapon, and win games to be competitive in games. I hope it's at least enough incentive to go out there and draft a weapon with that eighth overall pick. But losing was ideal scenario.
sure.
Even with Tampa Bay losing the day before, and the Panthers being the playoffs, go ahead, celebrate your 8-9 division championship. Like, feel free. You are a 10-point dog at home in the playoffs. 10 points.
That's diabolical.
Yeah, exactly. Holy crud. But it kept our draft pick as the number 8 overall pick, which is massive. Staying inside that top 8, that allows us to have the opportunity for, to draft one of the elite weapons in Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, or Jeremiah Love, or in some world where one of those elite guys above us falls for whatever reason, whether it's a Caleb Downs, a Reuben Bain, go ahead and draft them and then take our receiver or whatever in the second round, because there's a lot of good second round or third round receivers that are available this year. You think of like the receiver from Louisville, Chris Bell, or Elijah Surratt from Indiana are both going to be there in that second round range.
How do you feel about Casey Concepcion in black and gold?
I'm all for
in the
it.
second
We need a
round, of
deep
course.
threat, an over the top. Yeah, we need a deep threat over the top. But Shuck cooked. Tyler Shuck finishes. He was first in I think 4 of the 5 passing stats for rookie quarterbacks this year. The dude was exceptional all year. He had he had 2 Bryce Young games this year, just 2. The first one being his first career start against the Los Angeles Rams, and the other one being in a torrential downpour in Tampa Bay, where he had 2 long rushing touchdowns, and a win down in Tampa Bay. So the dude cooked all year, and this is with essentially no weapons. Alvin Kamara played in one of those games this year, with Tyler Shuck. Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill and Chris Olave were really his only weapons. Rashid Shaheed was already traded. In fact, he was traded after the Rams game, in his first start. So he was really, really good. I do wish he got to throw for more touchdowns. We ran for a ton of touchdowns, so he only ends up with 10 touchdowns and 6 picks. So this touchdown interception ratio doesn't look great, but it's undeniable the talent that he does possess, and we give him some weapons. I think there's a world where they're favorites maybe to win the NFC South next year. depending on what Tampa Bay's offseason looks like, what the Falcons' offseason looks like, and what Carolina's
Sure.
offseason looks like.
It should
Shuck
be very
made some ridiculous throws in that Falcons game. The touchdown pass down the sideline to Ronnie Bell. The
this kid
other
legend.
touchdown pass that took the lead where he was getting hit and he stepped up in the pocket and released it to his left, but it got called back due to a penalty. He made a few throws down the sideline that were critical. I can't wait for next year. I think this is, I this team was obviously good enough to win this trash division, and so that kind of sucks that didn't happen. But this is best case scenario outside of that top eight
Yep.
pick,
Sure.
fourth place schedule. We by strength of record, so like win percentage across all the teams, the New Orleans Saints have the second easiest schedule next year in
Huge.
terms of winning percentage. Now a lot's going to change in the offseason, but that's in large part a real big reason that the 49ers are where they're at in the postseason, why the Patriots have as many wins as they
Sure.
do. And it's for them it's because they're talented enough that it's the difference between 13 wins and 10 wins. For us it may end up being the difference between being 10 wins and 7 wins, and that'll be enough
Sure.
to win the division. So I can't wait for next year. I can't wait for the draft prep. I'll say at this point, fire Mickey Loomis if we draft another offensive lineman.
Okay.
But other than that, I can't wait.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And this division next year, you kind of mentioned it. It should be a very fun division next year, and not fun in how it was this year. Like, oh dang, all these teams kind of stink, and so everyone's kind of jumbled together. But like, assuming there's improvement from these teams, and they all will look to improve, it could be like, oh hey, all these teams are pretty good and pretty competitive, and who's gonna come out on top? Other games, shout out Miles Garrett breaking the sack record, gets Joe Burrow in the fourth quarter. Took him a while. I was eyes very close on that game as a Texas A&M fan. Dominant season from him. Watching him celebrate with his mom and dad after was really fun. Besides that, I mean, neither of those teams are really playing for anything. Lost season for the Bengals. No one really expected anything from the Browns this season. So I'm going to go ahead and move on unless any of y'all want to add anything to that.
Nope.
It does look like right now the first report. Um, so Kevin Stefanski was fired, but it's
Yeah.
the first report right now is that someone in the building has made it clear that Shador Sanders is going to be the starter going into camp next year.
Wow.
And because the head coach has been fired, there aren't a lot of personalities that can make that kind of statement, meaning it's probably just the owner or the GM or someone close to them, meaning they're going to be looking for a head coach and they're going to be meeting with this head coach and they're going to have to say, Shador Sanders we would like him to start next year.
Good luck getting a head coach.
Another piece in that chapter of chaos for Shador. Maybe it's Deion Sanders. Who knows? It's insane. I think that's a huge note going into next year for Cleveland.
And where are the Browns drafting?
It looks like Shador is going to start. They are drafting just before the Commanders at 6.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
So to be fair to them, it's not really a great spot to take a quarterback.
No.
But
there's 3 quarterback needy teams above them.
Yeah, to go ahead and pencil in Shador as a starter next year, I think that may hinder their coaching search.
Yep.
So that was a little bold. But if it was their owner, that sounds very much like Jimmy. That's not surprising at all. Next game, J.J. McCarthy. They finished the season with 9 wins. Hashtag branding. Well done there. Playing a Green Bay team that was locked into the 7 seed and were resting guys. So really a nothing burger of a game there. You win 16-3, and now it's kind of all eyes on next season. Do you bring in a vet to compete with JJ? Do you trust 9 to just run it back and improve? What's the thought process there? We'll get into that more in the offseason. I don't want to, get hung up on too many of those things. That'll be something we maybe discuss more in Thursday's show. The Giants beat the Cowboys, which has become a theme for the Giants in recent years, and that's winning games at the last minute to screw up their draft position. 2 years. I think I saw someone be like, the Giants have won, it's like 8 or 9 games in the past like 2 seasons, and half of them have come after they've been like eliminated from their division and nothing matters anymore, or they've been like in the last 2 weeks of the season. It's what they do best. So where are they picking now, JP? They fell to
So they were in line to potentially be the number one overall pick, and with the Las Vegas Raiders winning, they would have been the number one overall pick. Instead, they are the fifth overall pick. So they drop
yeah.
from 1 to 5, and they lose a ton of leverage too. Because if they were going to keep Jackson Dart and they were drafting 1, that would have been a very easy spot to trade with like
They
Las
could have got a
Vegas
haul.
or the Jets.
Yeah.
Or the Arizona Cardinals. So, yeah, they screwed themselves. They screwed the pooch by winning their final 2 games over the Raiders and the Cowboys. Um, but I guess credit to them for building momentum going forward. I've been seeing a ton of them because they are in fights with my Saints group in that they hate that Tyler Shuck is a potential rookie of the year, and they
Yep.
think it should be unanimously Jackson Dart when he's not won half the games that Tyler Shuck has. So
Yeah. I don't really know why you would give it to Jackson Dart. I'm going to be honest. I think that would be a little insane.
right now, Tet McMillan is the favorite.
Yeah.
According to Vegas.
Gotcha. Next game, Jacksonville wins 41-7 against the Titans. Good job, Titans, not screwing up your draft position late. Jacksonville keeps rolling. Trevor Lawrence has a good day passing. He's been on fire recently. I know you're playing the Titans, but you still love to see it. Nothing more really there. I don't know if any of y'all want to toss anything in. If not, I'm moving on. This one actually did kind of matter, and that's Houston faced off against Indiana. Indiana eliminated from the playoffs, but Houston losing would have impacted
Did you call
their
them
seeding.
Indiana?
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Yep, Indianapolis. Excuse me.
The Indiana
Indianapolis.
Colts.
The Indiana Colts. The Indianapolis Colts. They're out of the picture. Riley Leonard played really well against a good defense. Though Houston, despite seeding mattered, they did not play everyone. They pulled guys in the second half. C.J. Stroud didn't play the second half, but they do come out with a win to lock in the 5 seed. And so now they get to go to Pittsburgh to play instead of going to potentially like New England or Jacksonville or a place like that, or even like, yeah, I mean, it just, you gave yourself an easier game and you gambled by taking players out and you still got it done. So congrats to them. Any thoughts on that game?
I'm saving my
Indianapolis
energy.
Colts lost their final 8 games.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Brutal.
I'm saving my energy for a later game.
That's the takeaway.
Good takeaway.
Yeah.
I do have a take about this next game. Buffalo.
That's brutal.
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
is brutal. Buffalo
All you.
wins 35-8 against the Jets. Nothing really matters here. I will say I will not respect Josh Allen's consecutive start streak. Taking a snap and then leaving the game is like it's it's disingenuous in my opinion. I guess congrats on staying healthy, but you're not impressing me with that start streak at this point. I think I would be just as happy to respect you for being healthy if you didn't play in games because your team was, locked into their seat or it didn't matter. And you're not, you're not sitting because of an injury. You're sitting for other reasons. Like,
I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
LeBron's 10-point game streak. You remember that game? What was it that we talked about? It was like a couple weeks ago. It was right before it ended where he shot chucked and held the ball and was trying to ball hog and then hit it and immediately went to the bench and sat out for the rest of the game, right?
Shout out to him.
But what y'all said to me, I was like, hey, I don't really like this. You always said no one will care, right? In the grand scheme of the 10,000 straight games he had or whatever it is, nobody cares. If Josh Allen's at what? How many games? I don't remember the number. It's a lot. Probably
136,
yeah.
I think.
It's since his rookie year. If he's got 136, and if he goes another 150 and gets to the 300 mark or the 400 mark, no one's going to care that in Week 18 of the regular season with their spot in the playoffs locked up, he came in, took the first snap, and then went to the bench and played out another 10 years of his career. Nobody cares.
He's done it twice now. Also,
other guys that did that. Eli Manning, who I think holds the record, did it.
Scam. Scam.
Well, so is LeBron
the,
James just
no,
hogging the ball and not
because
passing.
you still have to go score. You still have to make your basket. He went and hit his shot. I could set a consecutive
Josh Allen
starts
had to
record
stay healthy for the first 136 games.
I could set a consecutive starts record in the NFL if I went into the game and handed off
Bro, you would pop your
took the
Achilles
snap
running
and
out into
handed
the
it off to my
field.
running back. They could walk me onto the field with a popped Achilles. I could take the snap and hand it off to James Cook and keep a consecutive start streak going. It's apples and oranges to me. I don't think there's any reason to get hung up on that too much. Josh Allen's phenomenal. He had another great season. You dominated the Jets, who, by the way, finished the season without an interception defensively for the first time ever, I believe. Historical badness from a team that is historically bad normally. So more of the same for the Jets. LOL. And now they're going to
They're
try.
also coached by a former NFL defensive back.
Yup. And he had to watch his team get 0 picks. I need someone to put together a compilation of like their missed chances for picks, because I need to know like how many did they drop, how many were they right there to get, or that just they were so bad that they really weren't in the spot to like get any, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I need to go see if that exists. Anything else from y'all in this game, or should we move on?
Yeah, if he didn't come in the game now twice and take the first snap and keep his consecutive games played streak, you also wouldn't care because you wouldn't know about it.
This
So
is true.
I'm fully okay with it. It's a testament to Josh Allen in that he's been able to avoid injury in a league that is riddled with injuries every single year. And also a testament that he's able to be in a spot where he can play the first snap of the game and come out, and it does not matter for his team and their postseason chances. So
Fair.
I'm fully here for it. I don't really have hard feelings towards Josh Allen. I also agree with Sanders because that was what I did say. So I agree with myself, but I agree with Sanders and him bringing it back up, and that you won't remember it that way when we talk about it.
I'm gonna just briefly reference the chat, and that's Finn saying LeBron James is not top 10 all time. I will not begin to get into that argument because, frankly, that's disrespectful. I mean, that is there's no point in getting into an argument with someone that thinks LeBron James is not top 10 all time. I don't know what we're doing there. Yeah, just wow. Okay, that would get us wildly off topic. I disagree, Sven. I would be curious though if you would list your top 10 in the chat. If you do have a set top 10, because I just would be curious to see who you have over LeBron James, the all-time points leader, top 3 in assists all time, has won multiple rings, 4 rings, 20-something All-Star appearances, multiple MVPs, so many first-team All-NBA appearances, came back from down 3-1 in the finals against the Golden State Warriors, has done it all. So I'm just curious who you think is better. Now we can move on. LeBum is who we did call him in the chat. Detroit and Chicago faced off. The biggest thing from this game, Detroit wins a game that doesn't matter. Dan Campbell gave himself an F for the season for his coaching job. And Caleb Williams did not break the 4,000 passing yard mark, but he did set the record, the franchise record for passing yards in a season. So there's a win and a loss there. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Look, this is how I kind of felt coming into the year, and they didn't finish 6-11 like I thought they would, but it felt like a glaring alarm for Detroit, the loss of the two coordinators, and that it was going to be hard to overcome, and that it wasn't just that last year, they were riddled with injuries defensively, and that's why it collapsed down at the end. I thought it was going to be more of a coaching issue this year that showed its head a ton this year. My biggest one is Dan Campbell. He's a flipping hypocrite. He's a full-on hypocrite. Because if you are gonna have, your opening press conference, bite knee, all of that stuff, we're gonna be built on toughness. We're gonna be built on physicality, and there are multiple times this year where you don't do that. I'll give you 2 right off the bat, and this is 2 out of 20. 3rd and goal from the 1 yard line against the Kansas City Chiefs earlier this year on Sunday Night Football. It's from the 1 yard line. You motion out Jared Goff and throw a pass to him that he somehow manages to score a touchdown on, but because you don't know the rules, he's not set and it's an illegal formation or whatever, or illegal shift, I think, and the touchdown's taken off the board. It's 3rd and goal from the 1. Just run the freaking football. You have David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Hand it off twice. Score a touchdown. You don't need to do a pass to Jared Goff on 3rd and goal from the 1 in a tie game on the road in the first quarter. In this game, 3rd and 1, you're on the Chicago side of the field. You've been setting up this kind of play all day with David Montgomery snapping the ball from quarterback. You try to run a quarterback throwback to Jared Goff where he rolls out and you're trying to hit him across the field with David Montgomery on 3rd and 1. You are built on toughness. You are built on running the freaking football. And on 3rd and 1 in 2 different scenarios in key moments in the year, you just refuse to, you go away from it. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. I hope he reflects on that because it was him calling the play, especially against Chicago. It wasn't him in the Kansas City Chiefs game, but he's the head coach. He holds just as much responsibility. That kind of stuff can't happen. If you're going to be built on toughness, you can't go then and play pretty. It was fine when it was with Ben Johnson because they did it when they were up 10,
Sure.
up 17. It was the second half. It was on 1st down, not 3rd and 1. It's BS. I hated it. I had to explain it to my mom why I was so mad when I'm watching this game with her and they try to throw a pass back to Jared
Yeah.
Goff because it's the most mad she's seen me in probably 3 or 4 years. It's so frustrating. And I can't even imagine for Detroit fans how frustrating it is as well because you have been given this opportunity in a window and you failed 3 times now. And it doesn't look like, the future, it's just going to turn itself around because the division is only going to get better. Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson in their first year won the North. 9. You hope, Minnesota fans, they won 9 games even with 9 and Max Brosmer and Carson Wentz. They're going to be back and be competitive next year. And Green Bay is perennially competitive. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback or who the head coach is or whatever. They are going to be competitive every year. So if it feels at least the future's bleak for Detroit, but it's no one but their own fault. It's no one but Dan Campbell's fault this year. It's been a coaching disaster. And there's my spiel on that because that was so frustrating to see it. And for their season to come to end in the way that it did because they should be in the postseason.
Yeah, the F grade Dan Campbell gave himself is warranted. Just point blank. I don't have anything else to add, though. We can move on. Denver locks up the 1 seed. They play the Chargers team who is resting guys. Justin Herbert didn't play. We got our Trey Lance experience, and he was the rushing leader for this game. Bo Nix has a nice Bryce Young, but Denver wins 19-3. Anything there? Move on. Anything,
Nope.
Sanders? You're a Chargers guy.
I'm saving everything up for this next game because this next game made me mad.
Woo! They beat the buzzer. The Las Vegas Raiders did. Sanders had them winning 2 games this season. They finished with 3 wins as they hit a game-winning field goal to win 14-12 against the Chiefs. The leading passer in this game was Aiden O'Connell with 102 passing yards. No touchdowns were scored in this game. Horrid game. A classic Week 18. Neither team wants to win this game, but the Raiders came through for me and JP. So while Sanders was the most right in terms of how many games these Raiders would probably win, about how good they actually were, we can say he was not right because they did win more than 2 games. We have pushback. We have ammunition. Sanders, you said you had a lot to say about this game. What do you got?
I don't have a lot to say. I just want to say that I'm pissed that I came
You
this
feel scammed?
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, to having a seer moment about being low on the Raiders. Everything would have been perfect. I wanted to have an emergency pod about the Pete Carroll and Geno Smith stuff. Because, not because I thought Geno Smith was good, but because we need to talk about why it didn't make sense for the Raiders to go get a win now veteran quarterback when they didn't have the roster to compete. And I got clowned for that. It doesn't matter. Geno Smith, like, it's not that big a deal. Like, what, you think they're going to be good? And then we did our season preview, and I was like, the Raiders are not going to be good this year. They're going to go 2-15. JP had them going, like, not winning, had them making the playoffs, excuse me, at 9-8. Jack had them at 7-10. And I was like, no, the Raiders are worse than that. They're going to go 2-15. They didn't. They go 3-14. But I think that my point is proved. It just didn't make sense. Pete Carroll got fired, I believe. That's what I was told this
He did.
morning by my brother, who somehow spends more time on ESPN and sports news than I do. But yeah, it didn't make sense. Geno Smith didn't make sense. Pete Carroll didn't make sense. It didn't work out, and now here we are. The Raiders have the first overall pick, and I was one game away, one kick away, one safety away. I mean, if Kansas City doesn't
Yeah.
give up that safety, I guess we go to overtime. But if there's with game on the line, there's no one I trust more in overtime than Shane Buchlokel or Chris Oludokin. No one I trust more with game on the line.
Chris Aludikin. Please get his name right.
Apologies. You know how to say the first one?
No, I'm gonna butcher that one. That
Shane.
was a
It
tough
might
one
be
for
like
me.
Shane Buchelli. I'm not that seems reasonable.
I know it's not those two.
Oh, never mind.
I think it's
Um,
Bouchel, if anything.
Bouchel. That would also make sense. No one I trust with the game on the line more than those guys. So we could have had overtime. The Chiefs could have won, and I could have been right about the Raiders. And yet here we are. It's just I think that the worst part is like the difference. It's like in fantasy football, the difference between being like 3-1 or 2-2. Like it's just one game, but it like makes a world of difference. I feel the same way about being right and then being one game away from right. When I got clowned like I did all season, that's it. Really is. That's what hurts. Is like it was right there, and I just didn't quite have it.
Didn't quite have it. It happens. It happens. Yeah, we can move on. Congrats, Raiders, for winning the tank off and securing your QB of the future. The Rams beat the Cardinals. Nothing really matters here. Michael Wilson did hit 1,000 receiving yards, which is wildly impressive considering kind of who he was on people's radars coming into the season. But the Rams handle business, and they pad Matthew Stafford's MVP candidacy as he gets 4 passing touchdowns. I'm not saying unethically padding,
Okay.
but I mean he threw for 4 passing touchdowns. They helped him out for sure. And then rolling into the next game, New England handles the Dolphins, and Drake May is kind of the other. It's Stafford or Drake May at this point for MVP. And the Patriots win 38-10. The Dolphins, I don't know what they're going to do at QB. They're one of the teams to watch in that regard. They're definitely not running it back with Tua. They've made that very clear. I can't really imagine them rolling with Quinn Ewers either. Definitely without bringing in another quarterback to compete. But I'm interested to see what they do. That's a conversation for another time. My Commanders unfortunately decided to win a game that didn't matter against the Eagles, who weren't playing people. I mean, Tanner McKee started. Tank Bigsby was the Eagles' leading rusher. But the Commanders win 24-17, and we drop a spot in the draft. And today it was announced we cleared house in terms of coordinators, which I was mad about the Cliff Kingsbury thing, but it seems like he's interviewing for head coaching positions. So it doesn't really look like we would be able to keep him anyway, even though we had kind of agreed to mutually part ways. Still a little confused on that. And then that's it, and we can roll into our games we actually specifically previewed and the games that had the most impact in terms of the playoffs this past week.
Did you want to take a look at Sven's basketball top 10, or did you just want to?
I did, but I don't even know where to begin in terms of it's clear there's a lot of championship. He values championships a lot on this list. I mean, Duncan won numerous. Sam
Mhm.
Jones. I don't know if I've ever seen Sam Jones in anyone's top 10 players of all time. He's a 10-time NBA champion because he was on those Celtics teams with Bill Russell. So that's got to be why he's there. But, like, just I'll pick one out for example. How is Kobe higher than LeBron James in terms of championships, but then also, like, personal accolades and awards? I mean, Kobe won how many rings? He won about the same as LeBron.
I'm not an NBA
He won
fan.
5. He won 5, so he won one more than
He won
LeBron.
5. Yeah,
I'll say
that's
this
why
as
he's here.
someone who is not an NBA fan and will never claim to be a true NBA fan. I've never heard of Sam Jones or Oscar Robertson, or if I have heard of them,
He
it
won
was like
5.
in passing,
Oh,
and I just forgot about them. It's not like
you're gonna
Oscar
need
Roberts,
you're gonna need to
Oscar
work on those
Robertson's a
too.
tough one, but I mean, you started off the thing with like you're not an NBA guy.
yeah. When did these
But I
guys
would
play?
maybe do some I mean, Sam Jones was in what the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, like I don't
No,
even
the
know.
60s
I
and
can
The,
probably
the
name
60s. Yeah, I
what
was a
was the
little I was
game
already
we
late.
played last spring in basketball season, whereas Ken Sanders named 25 basketball players, and I think I named like 25, like capped out. Like if I can't name 25 guys now, there's no way I'm going to know names from the 70s or 80s. I'm not an NBA guy.
Well, like JB said, he's actually from the 60s.
Oh, the
I was
60s.
late.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm kind of like it's hard for me to think that he's a top 10 player if I haven't heard of him. That's just my opinion. I feel like
look, personally, I don't hate him here whatsoever.
Who?
I
Sam
think
Jones?
what
no Sven. He
yeah,
doesn't
what
hate Sven's take.
Jack said in terms of Sven likes championships, apparently loves them. And Sam Jones is one of the winningest players of all time. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, it is just kind of like
I'm
then.
also like I've
If you care about rings, what did Wilt win?
well, Wilt scored 100 points and he
Allegedly.
averaged
Allegedly.
20, 25 rebounds. He averaged 50 points a game a season.
Sure.
Um,
But he didn't
but
win.
then again, he was also playing. He was also playing against like our fathers,
Correct.
in terms of athletic profile. So
I don't know. I've seen my dad hold a
I don't
basketball
know
before. That made me look like a deer in the headlights.
exactly. That's my point
No, I
there.
know.
7 foot Wilt Chamberlain versus a bunch of 5'10" guys. I don't think it's a bad
Well, my
list.
dad's 5'11".
I
He used to be 6 foot. So let's
it
not
seems that
let's not be
Sven's
disrespectful.
okay. Look, Sven is clearly of the belief that LeBron's championships are fraudulent as well. Of
Sure.
course, Mickey Mouse championship in the bubble.
Yeah.
And then 2 more in that the championship over the San Antonio Spurs is fraudulent because he didn't deserve to win it. Ray Allen just happened to hit a 3 that was critical, and that was the only thing
Sure.
that mattered. And then the other championship, the win over the Golden State Warriors, in game 5, he literally teabags. He literally puts his cojones all over Draymond Green's face, and then doesn't apologize, which is impolite. And Draymond Green shoves him. Draymond gets technical. Draymond suspended for game 6, and that's the only reason that the Cavs ended up winning that series.
Yeah.
It seems like that's where Sven lies, and if that's where he lies, then I don't disagree with them because I've once leaned that way as well.
Yeah.
I
We
love
can
the
move on.
Sam Jones pool though. That's a good one.
The Sam Jones one, it's like I said, it's unique, and at least with your list, Finn, I can respect your 100% lists are opinion based, and you have a clear thesis for why guys go on your list. Just a ton of winners on the list, and then you don't think LeBron is one of those winners. But
Hey, in a list like that, in my opinion, the opinion is consistency is the most important part. Don't contradict yourself, and so I think that's one of the reasons the list makes sense. Disagree with it or not, it's
well,
consistent.
he's also clearly an old head guy. Like he this is not his era of the NBA. His era of the NBA
It's
is
not mine either, and I'm not an NBA guy. I just
last century.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some bias there as well.
yeah.
I mean, Yeah. There's no the newest name on this list is Kobe,
Yeah.
unless I'm just missing. Yes, correct. All right, let's move on though. We gotta keep
Wait,
rolling so I
when did
can
Duncan retire? I guess Duncan retired in like the early 2010s.
before
2014,
Kobe.
2015.
Okay. And
He
Kobe
won
was
his
like,
he won his last title in 2014 with the Spurs, and then said peace.
cool. All right. We want to get into the 3 games we previewed.
Yeah, let's keep rolling so I can get to Memphis and hopefully watch Wimby play if he gets cleared to play.
Oh, are you going to the game?
I'm going to the game.
Oh,
Yeah.
hype.
Mont found 2 free tickets, so
Huge.
we are rolling. Please Wimby play. I've yet to see him live, and that's very much bucket list.
Game is up, so you can start whenever.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Oh, actually, I put the wrong one up. Let's start Carolina at Tampa. Wait, no.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, Carolina Tampa Bay. So now it's up.
Carolina and Tampa Bay faced off, and Carolina loses 16-14. However, Carolina wins the weekend because the Falcons come through for them, so they get pushed into the playoffs despite losing this game. Tampa Bay, a bit of a collapse. It's kind of shocking to see them not in the playoffs after how they started the season. And Carolina just finds their way, wins enough games, survives enough blowouts, and they're in the playoffs for the first time since, gosh, JP, you got the year for me? It's been a while.
2015.
2015. There you go.
Cam Newton.
Wow.
Bryce Young gets it done. The guy they traded so much for leads them back into the playoffs. Y'all's thoughts on this game? It wasn't necessarily the prettiest game. It was 16-14.
I think a big thing I talked about coming into this game was the opportunity that Bryce Young had. And look, he doesn't have a Bryce Young game, that being throwing for under 200 yards. But he did play well. I have to give him credit there. There's definitely something to be said that he's not going to go into the postseason coming off a bad game, even though they lost. Because quite frankly, I don't necessarily blame him. Carolina could not run the football, and they've relied on the run all year. Just 20 rushing yards, 12 carries from between Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, 10 yards apiece. And Bryce Young in the pouring rain, and in a game where Carolina doesn't win the time of possession, so it's hard to get a rhythm. In a game where the refs are clearly on Tampa Bay's side, they miss multiple pass interferences. They make some stupid pass interference calls. There's a bunch of calls in this game that clearly went against Carolina, and to Bryce Young's credit, he still played really well. His interception was not good per usual, but 266 through the air, 2 touchdowns. He's able to hit Ted McMillan and Jalen Coker a ton throughout this game. Tommy Tremble catches a touchdown.
Yeah,
I think you have to. I'm gonna give him credit for how he played in that kind of game, and it feels like it should give you more confidence going into this postseason run. That being said, Vegas doesn't agree. The Panthers opened as 10-point underdogs at home in a home playoff game. So that is just absolutely diabolical spread. I wonder if it's the biggest there has been, especially for a home team, really ever. Surely someone will find that at some point. But Carolina, still though didn't win the game, and so for me, I'm not going to have a ton of confidence for them going into the playoffs. I don't care how good Bryce Young played. This was their win and in moment, and they didn't capitalize on it. And maybe they'll be able to capitalize on it when the playoffs have started and it's actually win or go home. Because even for Pittsburgh, 2 weeks ago they had it against Cleveland. They lose it. Well, they got their chance of redemption and they were able to accomplish it on Sunday night. Carolina's going to have that chance now against Los Angeles, a team they've already beat, a team and with Matthew Stafford. So this is a great playoff team. It's a team that's won a Super Bowl with a playoff coach. And so a ton is going to be against Bryce Young and that team. And for me, seeing their most recent result being against Tampa Bay, a loss in a game they had to win, I don't know how you have a lot of confidence in them in the postseason, um, even if you're a Carolina Panthers fan.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. We've seen this team struggle mightily in big games this season. They've had a couple big wins, but they've also just kind of semi-routinely shown that they're not quite ready for the big time, and that's what the playoffs are, is the big time. And you're swimming with the sharks and kind of the you're with the big boys now, and so I'm a little worried what'll happen. But considering what they've done the past couple seasons, this is definitely a success. Just making the playoffs, who you're kind of playing with house money at this point, and you're kind of really more so looking to see how you could build on the success for later seasons, less so than being like, hey, I think we can make a run to the Super Bowl. Let's see what happens. Yeah, there's no reason not to be ecstatic if you're a Panthers fan.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I mean, I'm not gonna talk about the X's and the O's of the game, but I can't wait for our off-season conversation around the Panthers. Last year they finished third in their division, got to play a third place schedule. This year they go 8-9, and now you are going to be in the playoffs, so you're not going to get that draft pick that's going to with the other 8-9 teams. You're going to pick at best you'll pick what is that? 14 spots from last, so 20 or excuse me, 18th, I think. 19th.
At best, you'll pick 19th.
19th. That's best case scenario, and that's assuming you don't win a game, which I think we're going to assume for now. I don't think it sets them up well for future success. I think this is like worst case scenario for you sneak into the playoffs at 8-9. Maybe Bryce Young is your guy, and maybe we're wrong about him, and maybe we have been all season. But 19 is not a great spot to get him supporting help. And so now you're going to be 8-9. You're going to go into the playoffs, and next season you're going to play a first place schedule. You're going to have to play the Eagles, and you're going to have to play the not the Packers, the Bears, and you're going to have to play these teams that finish first overall, and it's just not the Seahawks. I mean, all these teams that are the elites of the NFC right now, the really good teams in the NFC, you're going to have to play all those teams. I just don't think it sets them up well for success.
I mean, I think that's fair, but as like I think what I said previously is like putting myself in the spot of a Panthers fan, and that's if you just went through a rebuild.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is the reality of we may be headed towards a really small blip of a contention window where we never were really contenders, and then we're kind of right back to rebuilding and trying to find another quarterback. And they don't want to face that reality, and they don't want to have to go through that again so quickly.
Yeah, and I wouldn't either.
And so this is at least like,
I mean, JP did the exact same thing this offseason when he had the Saints going, 8-9, 9-8. I think
7-10. I think
no. Right? That's where he finished. But at one point, did you have them winning the division at one point at 9-8?
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is like fans they want to see success now. And even JP,
Correct.
who's one of the most analytical fans I know, who cheers with his head and not his heart 99% of the time, falls into that little. And then you have a season like you want. You have a season where you're going to finish with a draft pick. You go 6-11. You think you have your quarterback. So all fans are pretty much the same in that they want to see their team succeed. Nobody wants to recognize or deal with the reality that you might be in for years more of finishing and with a top 10 draft pick. So
especially if the piece of like, hey, if Bryce Young was bad again this year, they would have had to move on. And not only did you draft Bryce Young first overall, you traded up so much to go get him. And we've seen what the Bears have done with those draft picks and who that's turned into. Yep. So it wouldn't even just be like, we swung and missed. It'd be, we gave up a ton to then go swing and miss, right?
Yeah.
It just would have not been ideal. Anything else on this game? Anything on the Buccaneer side? Are we good to move on? Cool.
Buccaneers, I guess you look at Foles being fired and then what they do going forward. But I think we'll save that for another day in terms of their conversation. They won the game. They did what they were supposed to in this moment. They didn't do enough throughout the latter part of the 2 months. They were 2-7 to end the year after starting the season 5-1. So just a really poor showing down the stretch, unable to win football games. But they did enough. They did what they were supposed to in this game, and sadly, Mr. Shuck couldn't pull through for him.
And so the Buccaneers finished second. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so they'll play. I don't want to beat a dead horse with the where you finish in the divisions because I saw someone say that it really only affects 3 games, but just to throw this out there so that people understand how important it is. Would you rather play the Green Bay Packers with Micah Parsons, coming back from injury, or the Minnesota Vikings, who still don't know what they have at quarterback? I'd rather play the Vikings. The Vikings finished third, the Packers finished second. That's the difference between finishing second and third. Would you rather play the Dallas Cowboys or the Washington Commanders? The Cowboys will be returning Dak Prescott, George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb. Offensive line will be getting healthy. They'll be investing more on defense in the offseason. The Washington Commanders have Jaden Daniels, but Terry McLaurin will be a year older. That defense that was a bunch of old guys who it didn't work out this year. Now they have to figure out how to replace those old guys this offseason. I'd rather play the Commanders than the Cowboys next season, I think. This is why it matters because it's the NFL. It's 17 games. Every win, every loss matters a lot. And so maximizing, playing a third place schedule versus a second place schedule is important because that's 3 games against teams that you would rather play.
We're just throwing punches at the Commanders.
I'm not trying to throw punches at the Commanders. I think the reality is I would rather play the Commanders next year than the Cowboys right now, right? I mean, that could change with a good offseason.
We'll see. We got $100 million in cap space.
I think both of you and then whoever you heard that said that online is right. It does only affect 3 games, straight up. But like I said earlier, those 3 games are extremely impactful because you look at the New England Patriots and the 49ers this year with their weaker schedules. It's the difference between 14 wins and the 2 seed or 11 wins and you're on the road because you didn't win the division. And for Carolina, Tampa Bay, it may be the difference between 10 wins and just eking out the NFC South again, or 7 wins and not winning the division and being in the postseason. It is just 3 games, but it is 3 really important games because every game is important. We saw that this year when you come down to the stretch and we have 3 divisional games that decide divisions against each other, and that's only because those teams are playing each other. We could have had more opportunities as well if we had different matchups in the final week of the year. Imagine if Jacksonville and Houston played each other in the final week. There's another game that comes down and decides the division in the final week. So every game matters. Yeah. It is just 3, but it's 3 really important games because every win matters.
Yeah, and it's also teams that you're going to be given that y'all are likely on similar levels, right? You finish in similar divisions. The entire NFL is on a comparable level. It's a much smaller scale of spreads than you see at the college level. These are teams you're going to be competing for wildcard spots. And we saw that as probably midway point. We were talking about the Chiefs and how they lost to the Jags and they lost to the Chargers and they lost to this team. The wild card spots kind of come down to a lot of those games as well, tiebreakers, etc. So it is just 3 games, but those 3 games matter in the win-loss column, and they matter in the tiebreaker column as well. So super impactful, in my opinion, not just what your record is, but where you finish in the division and how that sets you up for success the next season.
Sure. All right, let's move on to the other Saturday game.
Go ahead.
A battle of to determine the 1 seed. And it was a defensive slugfest, which. And the theme of JP's 2026 kind of resolution, I believe we kind of were all over this being a bit of a slugfest defensively. Am I not wrong, or do I have that flipped backwards?
Not me.
Okay, I guess I should
had
maybe
this
go back
as
and watch
a shootout.
Then I have it flipped, so we're not tooting our own horn here. We were wrong. It was a defensive slugfest, and Seattle wins 13-3. Obviously, 3 points, no defensive or no touchdowns for the 49ers. Tough McCaffrey drop towards the end zone that turned into a pick. Some unlucky things to happen. But this ruins Seattle's chance of playing at home throughout the whole playoffs. They don't have home field advantage. Obviously, they get to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl will be in their home stadium. But y'all's thoughts on this game? Anything y'all saw that holds bearing for the playoffs? I don't really feel any differently about these 2 teams personally. It was just kind of a hard fought football game between two good teams.
It's really important because the game is important for the path.
Correct.
Just think of Minnesota and Detroit last year. Detroit ends up losing that game to Washington anyway, but they got the bye, they got the home field advantage, and
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota had to go on the road and play in Arizona because of the LA Fires. It'll be no different. Like San Francisco, because of their loss, now has to go to Philly, and Philly hasn't lost a home playoff game in a long while, so that's just not going to be easy. In fact, they haven't lost a home playoff game in at least 4 years. They've been really dominant at home in Lincoln
Yeah.
Financial Field. San Francisco's gone and lost there before. If they're somehow to win that game, they're more than likely going to play in Seattle, a team they just lost to, and they have to go play in their building. You're more than likely looking at home or road games the whole way. It also, like for the NFL, like Sanders was saying earlier, or just a second ago, where the spreads are so much closer, you win and lose games so easily. Things flip so quickly. And so the difference between getting to play 2 games and 3 games is unbelievably impactful. It doesn't seem to be holding like the same kind of weight in the college football playoff right now, and maybe that'll bear out as we get more and more years of it. But in the NFL, it's extremely impactful.
Sure.
Number one overall seeds make the Super Bowl roughly 2 out of 3 times. That's roughly 66%. So it's a huge difference in percentage chances to go to the Super Bowl. So it's really important for San Francisco and Seattle. From this game in particular, it puts a lot of people. I think it puts more people in the NFL on in perspective of how good the Seattle defense is,
Yeah.
because San Francisco was cooking for weeks in a row. Brock Purdy, the last 2 weeks, had 5 touchdowns in each of those 2 games. He has no touchdowns himself in this game. San Francisco doesn't even score more than 3 points in this game. That's at home. That's with playing as hot as you've been. That's with George Kittle returning. All of those things. It didn't matter. So it was really a huge showing from Seattle's defense. They controlled this
Yeah.
game the whole way. You could tell with the way Mike McDonald and Seattle were playing aggressively offensively that they had full trust in their defense, which to have full trust in your defense like that, that's just going to make you play so much better, both offensively and defensively. Seattle really should have blew them out of the water. Of course, you have all the missed opportunities, missed field goals, turnover on downs on that first drive. So that defense it's 100% championship caliber, and it's going to be the same story with the other 1 seed in Denver and Bo Nix as it will be with Seattle and Sam Darnold. And that I think for those two teams, quarterback play is going to dictate, whether or not these two teams win the Super Bowl. And a huge problem for Sam Darnold this year didn't bear out in this game, but it's been turnovers. He has 20 turnovers this year, which is more than games played. That's more than 1 turnover a game. 1 turnover may be the difference in one of these playoff games. So, and he has not been cooking as of late either. You go back to prior to the Rams game where he threw 4 picks, he was averaging roughly like 250 plus passing yards per game. Since then, he's averaging roughly 225. So their passing numbers are down. That's with the addition of Rashid Shaheed. JSN was on a record pace, no longer the case. I think it's going to be a question going forward. And so, for that to be a really important piece for Seattle, for them to find success in the run game like they did in this game, I think it's going to give them the confidence that it may not matter. That's a difference between them and Denver, really. Denver doesn't excel at running the football like Seattle can. Denver doesn't have the running backs that Seattle does.
Sure.
I think I'm probably going to end up picking Seattle to be in the Super Bowl when we get to our playoff, prediction show on Thursday. It's because they are finding ways to run the football. And it's not just like 4 or 5 yard carries. They'll hit some big ones too. Like they will find holes. If you remember at the beginning of the season, coming into the season, what was the big question with Seattle? It was going to be what was Sam Darnold going to be and offensive line play. Gray Zabel, I think, like if offensive lineman could get rookie of the year, give him the rookie of the year. They've been dealing with injuries on that
Yep.
front too. Like Charles Cross doesn't play in this game.
Got his money though.
Mississippi State, yeah, got his money, got extended. Another Bulldog paid. The best in the state come to state, and then they get paid. So for them to have like find so much success in the running game and passing game this year has been really incredible. And I think they're really dangerous because of that. Like the 3rd and 16 is so demoralizing that they are able to just hand it off to Kenneth Walker on a little toss, and he picks it up. Charbonnet has a 27-yard carry in this game.
Yeah.
That run game paired along with that defense is going to be championship caliber. And so I think Seattle's the team to beat in the NFC, which is like that's not a huge take because of the 1 seed, but with how many good teams are in that conference, it would appear I think it's point blank them. Like if Sam Darnold is not forced to throw the football like we talk about with like Carson Beck in Miami, because they can run the football and hold other teams to so little points. Look for Seattle to be back in that building here in 4 weeks.
I think that's really well said. It they don't need their passing game to win games, and it's pretty nice to not have to rely on Sam Darnold because I wouldn't want to personally. Anything to add, Sanders?
Sure.
We could move on to the highlight of the week, and at least for me, and I think it's a little crazy if it's not your highlight of the weekend.
No, I think I'm ready. This game didn't.
Okay.
I think these are two really good teams, so I'm not gonna take away anything negative from a matchup of two really good teams.
And we're gonna talk about them both Thursday too. Like we'll be able to give more thoughts then. The Steelers and Ravens were the Sunday night football game, and we had the Steelers pulling out all the stops, the priest blessing the field before the game with holy water, et cetera, et cetera. Two teams that hate each other with a playoff spot on the line. What more could you want? The game started off a little slow offensively, a little testy, and then fourth quarter fireworks, man. A couple big touchdowns to Zay Flowers, which, as I was watching with my friend who was in the fantasy championship going up against Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers, he had a 99% chance going into the fourth quarter to win, and Zay Flowers ripped his heart out twice. You have that, Aaron Rodgers leading drives, scoring touchdowns, kicking not heroics, the opposite, kicking disasters as Pittsburgh misses the extra point. So all of a sudden, Baltimore, hey, you just need a field goal to win. And then Tyler Loop, his kick just drifts on him so bad. It just fades so bad to the right, and they lose because they couldn't hit that 44-yard field goal. And I think the Ravens are the disappointment of the season for me. I know they had their injury issues. Maybe you could say it's the Detroit Lions. But not making the playoffs is just pretty inexcusable for this team. And I don't want to talk necessarily too much on that because they're definitely a team we'll circle back to on Thursday to discuss kind of offseason plans. But it's inexcusable. Shout out to the Steelers. People criticize the move of bringing Aaron Rodgers in. And, hey, maybe you still don't like it because you're maybe not exactly moving forward into a new era. But he brought you to 10 wins, him and that defense and the weapons and, Mike Tomlin. You're back in the playoffs yet again. You want 10-7, good season from them. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's JP. I think it's a good thing we did not tweet out your thing about how you wish that this was the Saturday night game and that Niners Seahawks was the Sunday night game because this was the perfect way to end. Just the chaos, the tension of. I mean, y'all are both big Aaron Rodgers guys. I like Aaron Rodgers, but not as much as y'all. But sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is his last game. It's the last game of the season. The way we thought it was going to end, it was incredible. It was such a great game, and I think the perfect way to end the season.
Yeah, I fully take back that. And now, looking hindsight a little bit 2020 on it, but it is. Now I've talking about these two games and reacting to them. This because it was win or go home. it actually does. There was so much more stakes on this kind of game, especially between these two teams, these two franchises. It was. We'll go ahead and get a little personal here. This was the first NFL game this year where I cried, and I cried multiple times during this game because it was beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful. The NBC did such an incredible job with the presentation for this game. Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth were terrific. And you couldn't ask for a better story either. When you consider the way these two teams had played this year, when you consider the circumstances both teams were in, Ravens punch immediately right off the bat.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers can't really move the football, and Baltimore's immediately up 10-0. You have the drama at the end of the first half where, Pittsburgh's right there on the goal line and they can't score with first and goal. And they end up going for it on fourth and goal, don't convert on what Jack would call a great play call. Look, I do want to say personally, I disagree with you. I don't think you like the play call because it didn't work.
I don't like starting running back on the 9-yard line when it's 4th and 1 on the 2-yard line, or 4th and 2 on the 2-yard line, whatever it was. Like I think you're fighting an uphill battle from that point, and in my opinion. Sure, hindsight's 2020, sure. Whatever, but
you would end up liking, of course, the play call then later when they push it in, and the Ravens are discombobulated. They don't have their guys lined up correctly, and Connor Hayward with his brother pushing from behind just pushes him in immediately. TJ Watt's interception, take it 13-10 right after that with the field goal was. And then the fourth quarter for the two offenses to turn it on the way they did was exceptional. A big storyline coming to this game was, Pittsburgh's without DK Metcalf because of him being a stupid idiot. And I don't put those words lightly.
Sure.
Rodgers had no one to throw to, it felt like, for much of the game, and yet he put on one of his gym performances. The pass up the sideline to Adam Thielen that leads to a touchdown in the fourth quarter was a frozen rope, literally, because it was freezing there. The completion to Adam Thielen was the fourth oldest completion of all time. He's completed other passes to him this year, but it's the fourth oldest completion of all time because Thielen's 35 and Rodgers is 42, 77 years old. One of the oldest completions of all time. I think something that we clearly undervalued, and I think I undervalued. I've watched a ton of Steelers games this year, if not all of them. And I don't know why I haven't realized it already, but Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell are like X factors, like full-on X factors. The way they played in this game was absolutely incredible. Pittsburgh's offense, since it's so quick hitting, relies so much on one-on-one and breaking tackles. And Jaylen Warren with his legs was incredible at that. And then Kenneth Gainwell was incredible at that all night as well. That's your leading rusher and your leading receiver is your two running backs in this game. So like full-on credit to them too. And the way Aaron Rodgers used them as well. Pittsburgh I talked about their formula a ton this year and that they try to score 20 points and don't give up 20 or more. They fail on that, but they're able to find 26 points. Who would it, like, if I told you coming into the game, one quarterback is going to throw it 18 times and one's going to throw it 47 times. That is just like a dramatic difference in the fact that Rodgers almost attempts 30 more passes than the Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Diabolical. And of course, the way it ended, everyone loved the way it ended. Chris Boswell's field goal was actually blocked, by the way. It was recorded as a block. Apparently, it hit a fingertip of one of the DBs coming off the right side. So it's still a missed field goal. Yeah, but like that's such a dramatic story in itself. He hasn't missed a field goal or an extra point, I should say, in 4 years.
Yeah.
He hasn't missed an extra point in 4 years, and he misses that one. Are you kidding me? Tyler Loop had not missed a kick in his rookie year under 50 yards, and he misses that one. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of this sport. It's what makes it so frustrating and so awesome is that you can see stat profiles like that all year, and it doesn't matter because it's one kick, it's one decision in the game. Um, to outlook on the both of the two teams, like I fully agree with you, Jack. The Ravens were unbelievably disappointing, and disappointing in this game as well. I mean, I think Lamar played well, but you can't have the spells that you had offensively.
Sure.
You can't have the lightning in the bottle moments, and then I think they had, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6 three and outs in this game. Those kinds of things can't happen. You cannot allow an Aaron Rodgers offense where his two best weapons are Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren to, in the fourth quarter, drive for 2 straight touchdown drives in the most critical moments. I don't care if Kyle Hamilton's on the field or not. That can't happen.
Sure.
But it just seems to continue to happen for Baltimore. That's been, look, that immediately that's what on TikTok and Twitter is compilations of all of these like still silly, goofy moments that Baltimore has lost, ended up losing their seasons because of. You go all the way back to like, Derrick Henry coming into your building and throwing a touchdown pass on you. You go back to last year, Mark Andrews dropping a 2-point conversion. 2 years ago, Tyler Huntley, it's 17 all in the fourth quarter. QB sneak reaches the ball over the top. It gets punched out, 99-yard touchdown for Cincinnati. In this game, your corner, Chidobe Awuzie, slips on a stutter and go where the receiver is 10 yards away from you. He's 10 yards away and he falls diving at the stutter and go, and you give up a touchdown and then you miss a field goal. It's one thing to be said that, yeah, Baltimore is really talented, and if you just take the highlights of the game and those moments, you'd be like, oh yeah, that team could go on a run in the postseason. No, they can't. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they would have. They would have already done that. They are too talented to have not already have done that with Lamar Jackson and a two-time MVP. And they certainly weren't going to do that this year. That was how I felt about Kansas City 8 weeks ago before Mahomes tore his ACL or any of that.
Yeah.
That it's just, I don't care how talented they were in the past. And you could actually make the argument way easier for Kansas City because they have won in the past. For Baltimore, it's no different. They were not going on a run in the postseason. I don't care if they had won this game. And Lamar had looked great, and he completes the pass to Isaiah Likely in a dramatic game-winning drive. They were 8-9 for a reason, because they would play games and they would have a great first half defensively and then be terrible in the second half. They would be excellent to start a game and then can't score for 35 minutes. If they were that good, they would have already done it. So I don't like those takes from people where it's like,
Sure.
It sucks not seeing them in the playoffs, or if they were in, they were going to be dangerous. No, they weren't. Otherwise, they already would have been, and they would have been in years past. I think they've got to. I do think they have to move on from one of John Harbaugh or Lamar Jackson. Harbaugh's coached there for 19 years.
Crazy.
Lamar's had all of his contract disputes there, so if you ask me right now, I don't know which one of them is gone. You would assume the favorite is Harbaugh, but he's also coached there for 19 years. He feels like one of those candidates, just like with Mike Tomlin. Maybe we need a refreshing of scenery because he hasn't played in the Super Bowl since 2013, and that he's had playoff teams almost every single year. So that's what it feels like for me. Is he'll be immediately a hot candidate, but it feels like you got to move on from one of the two.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and we've kind of seen reports hinting at that as well, that that's going to be the case, and that's kind of how the Ravens front office views it as well. Anything you want to add here, Sanders?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I think we're ready to wrap it up. Good show, boys. We'll be back Thursday for the listeners to preview the NFL playoffs game by game, as well as the Totem Pole playoff edition and the Pyramid playoff edition will be unveiled. And then we'll do a couple like off-season primaries for teams that we think are facing a crossroad or have a really monumental offseason in front of them. So we'll be back Thursday for y'all. For y'all, excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for
We'll
anyone who tuned
also
in.
get the
Go ahead.
chance to highlight. I mean, State's portal class is taking shape. I think we've had 3 or 4 commits while we were recording, which is super exciting. 2 defensive backs, one from Iowa State and one from Syracuse. Yeah, and then also Mario Nash committed. Mario Nash is a former state commit out of high school. Went to Florida State, just finished his freshman year, redshirted, and he'll be here in the fall or spring. I guess he'll be here next year. In-state guy, so love to see that. But yeah, stuff's happening. I can't wait to see what happens, and we'll be 2 days deeper come Thursday, and maybe we'll have more to talk about.
I'm sure there'll be a couple more commits at that point.
Maybe we'll know
yeah.
what Cam Coleman is, Jack. You can throw your Aggie hat in celebration or in sadness, either way.
Probably not. If he'll probably still be on his tech visit.
Yeah.
When we record. But you never know. Crazy things happen. But yeah,
True.
thanks for everyone who tuned in. And like I said, we'll be back for y'all Thursday. Peace.
See ya.